Make sure
From my stuff, yeah, that was a good letter. Yeah, it's very
It's probably like a quick jet. That's not the good stuff. You just put your teeth out. They make it soft. You know, check those steps.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to remind everybody, if you would like to speak tonight and are not an applicant, to please make sure you sign up at the front. We will be collecting that after our first agenda item, and if you have not signed up, we won't be able to have you public speak this evening. Thanks so much. And officially, we'll get started officially with our invocation. Commissioner Molina volunteered to lead us this evening.
We pray for wisdom, for strength, for courage to do what is right and good for all citizens. May we put the interests of others above our own. May we act with love for the common good. May we be good neighbors, recognizing your image in every person here.
An official start of 6 o'clock with their pledges. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful July 4th holiday weekend. Before officially getting started, I just wanted to say, 250 years ago, a group of people decided that ordinary neighbors and ordinary people would govern our country. And I think it's very fitting that this evening we're in a very room where that democracy still runs true. So I just want to thank you all for joining us this evening, caring about our community, and seeing where this future of this community is going to go. And also what I wanted to start with as well is kind of some just procedural things, since we do have some new faces in the room. So this evening for each agenda item, it will be stated and the staff will report on that agenda item. After that, the applicant is going to present. If they are presenting, they have a 25-minute limit on that presentation. After that, we're able as a commission to ask questions and discuss. And after that point, that's when we'll open that public comment. So during public comment, you have 3 minutes. During that time frame, unfortunately, while we would love to answer your questions and discuss with you during that time, we unfortunately cannot. So if we're silent, please know it's nothing against you. We have to be. And then after that is when we will vote. So we have 3 options with voting. And this is a vote of recommendation to City Council. So City Council is going to make the final decision. We can recommend approval with conditions, or we can also recommend to deny. So just a little bit of how tonight is going to run for everyone. And we will officially get started with 2-1. Consider approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2026.
over maybe I might have missed something. So
Good to me as well.
No, look good to me.
Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. Make a motion to consider the approval, or I make a motion that we approve the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2026.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, 2-2. Hold a public hearing and consider a request by Tiffany Fishbeck with Grand Endeavor Homes on behalf of Judette Mahmood for the approval of a special use permit to allow a guest house located at 553 Rosemary Ridge Drive, Bulverde, Texas 78163.
Yes, good evening. This is a request for the use of a guest house in the Bell Oak subdivision, which is zoned as R2 residential zoning district. The guest houses are not allowed by right in this neighborhood, and a special use permit is required for the use. The proposed guest house is allowed a maximum residential floor area of 1,000 square feet. The applicant's proposal contains a residential floor area of 528 square feet, which is compliant with the allowed maximum area. Additionally, the guest house will utilize the same access as the main residence as required in the SUP application. Let me know if you have any questions on the staff report. I believe that the applicant or the property owner is present.
Any questions for staff? Okay. The applicant, if you're in the room. Yes. Hi. Do you mind stepping up?
I'm Tiffany.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Can you tell us a little bit about the guest house, purpose, all those kind of fun things?
So the Mockroad family, they're a really sweet family. They're intending to use it strictly for extended family when they come to town. So it's a bedroom, kitchen, family room, and it'll also be, they're planning to put in a pool, so also a space for the pool house as well.
And then are utilities shared with the main residence as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? I guess so. But we're gonna go down the line as well. We're kind of gonna copy what City Council does. So, Commissioner Molina?
The only question I have is how do you get to it from going off the back patio or around from the driveway or?
Yeah, you can go from the back patio.
Okay.
So there will be flat work there.
Commissioner McCall?
Nope. Good.
No.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Also, do I have the public comment sheet? Imagine there's none, but just in case. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have no public comment at 6:05, so opens and closes. Commissioners, I would entertain a motion.
Good. All right, I make a motion for recommendation to City Council for the approval of a request by Tiffany Fishbeck and Brandon Never Homes on behalf of Judette Mahmood for the approval of a special use permit to allow a guest house located at 553 Rosemary Ridge Drive, Bulverde, Texas 78163.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 2-3, hold a public hearing and consider a request by Lindsay Cliff with David Weekly Homes on behalf of Kevin and Susanna Rodriguez for the approval of a special use permit to allow a guest house located at 34591 Tiffany Bell Road, Bulverde, Texas 78163.
Yes, so this guest house is also going to be located in the Bell Oak subdivision, which is zoned as R2. R2 zone does require that special use authorization for the use of guest houses. The proposed guest house is allowed a maximum residential floor area of 1,000 square feet. The applicant's proposal contains a residential floor area of 632. This is compliant with the allowed maximum area. Additionally, the guest house will utilize the same access as the main residence as required in the application. Do you have any questions for me on the staff report?
Any questions on this one? Thank you so much. Is the applicant here this evening?
Great.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The purpose of the request is for the casita is mainly just to serve, similar to the previous hearing, to serve as a guest house for family and extended members as they come. The initial request was intended to be briefed by the builder, Ms. Melissa. However, as an active duty Marine, I was able to come down on leave to be able to brief this the request today. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, just service, extra hearing. So appreciate your time and consideration on this matter.
Thank you. Thank you for your service as well.
Thank you for support.
Fred, any questions?
No.
Questions? Any questions?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain motions.
I can do it. Okay. Make a recommendation to City Council for approval with a request by Lindsay Sutcliffe of David Weekly Homes on behalf of Kevin and Susanna Rodriguez for the approval of a special use permit to allow a guest house located at 34591 Tiffanyville Road, Bulverde, Texas 78163.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Great, thank you so much. Okay, 2-4, hold a public hearing and consider a request by Paul Tausch with Trinity Construction LLC on behalf of James Bell Revocable Trust for the approval of a special use permit to allow a guest house located at 31244 Sunlight Drive, Bulverde, Texas 78163.
Yes, so this will be the last guest house for this evening, but this one's gonna be located in the Oak Village North subdivision, which is also gonna be zoned as a R2 residential zoning district. This will require the special use authorization for the use of that guest house. The proposed guest house is allowed to have a maximum residential floor area of 717.09 square feet. The applicant's proposal contains a residential floor area of 990 square feet. This does exceed the allowable maximum by 272.91 square feet. They are also proposing to use that main access to access that guest house. Any questions on this report?
The applicant here, this one as well?
Yes, hi, I'm Paul Towers. Thank you for your consideration. This is again a special use permit for additional caretaker style residence. The additional dwelling is intended solely to provide housing for the owner's elderly father who requires increased daily assistance. So it is a little bit larger, but it's going to be potentially wheelchair stricken. So they're looking for a little bit additional increase in the size.
Do you know how many bedrooms and bathrooms, and is the caretaker also living in this?
It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. So it's actually, the son lives in the main property and the father lives in the secondary structure.
And then both houses have not been constructed yet.
No, this is new build.
Okay. We'll go down the line. So Commissioner Molina?
So did I hear you correctly? The father is gonna live in the main house?
No, in the smaller dwelling.
I'm sorry,
In the smaller dwelling.
in the smaller, so
Yes.
there'll be 2 people in the smaller one.
Just one, and the son's going to live in the main dwelling.
Okay,
It's
so
two-
then the
two properties.
caretaker is going to just come in.
Well, we say caretaker's house, but his son is actually going to be taking care of him, and so he's going to be in the additional dwelling.
Okay.
Commissioner Burrier, do you have any questions?
No, I read over beforehand. I was just wondering why it's over the allowed amount.
Yeah, because of the wheelchair, potential accessibility, so space-wise.
So 1 bedroom, 1 bath, so is it a large kitchen dining area?
Yeah, it's a large open area, kitchen and dining, and then special use in the bathroom areas as well, for wheelchair accessibility.
So the cabinets will be accessible and everything?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you possibly have a floor plan?
I do.
Can we see that? by
You sure can.
chance? Can pass it on the line real fast.
Will it be equipped also with like monitors to trigger the son's alert if dad gets kind of in trouble and can't get out of the chair to get to the bathroom or shower?
Well, it's going to have a security system, but I don't know about any internal monitoring. And that would be something separate they would have to address.
His son married?
Yes, he is.
I'll jump to you guys and then we'll jump to that. I'll come back to you. Commissioner Porter, any questions?
Yes, sir. So the gentleman's gonna be living in the casino, or the father, he doesn't have healthcare workers with him right now.
No, he does not.
Okay, how old is he?
He's roughly about 77, I think.
Are there stairs or ramps to this, or is it necessary?
It'll be direct access from the entry point off of Starlight Drive, and then I'll have direct access to his dwelling.
Okay.
Commissioner Fleming?
Do we have any history on going above the, or allowing, or above the limits? I don't recall.
This restriction's not that old.
We just said this last year.
Yeah, it was put in place last year. Before it was in place, we approved several that would not comply with the current rule, but it also, the ordinance allows you to request to go above it. It's not a hard and fast prohibition. The commission can and council can approve it if they feel it's justified.
Any questions?
Sorry.
Any questions? Do you have any questions?
I'm okay.
After seeing the floor plan, I do have a couple of questions. There's no bedroom that's listed on the floor plan, so is he planning to just live in the open space?
Yes, it's more of an open space area, correct?
And then would they consider taking away some of the square footage to fit within the requirement, but is reducing the width? You'd only be losing some of that.
I mean, they've already got all the floor plans, everything's already been drafted, it's been submitted to the HOA as well. I mean, they prefer to keep it in the same position that they have now, square footage wise. So they won't have to go through that process again, and then again, given that it's gonna be his full-time residence, he wants to make sure space wise, he's got, adequate, be able to move with wheelchair access.
I will say though, too, the floor plan currently as it stands is not ADA compliant. Are they aware of that?
Yes, correct.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? Okay, we'll discuss. Thank you so much. There is no public comment on this matter, so you're opening and closing it at 6:15. Commission, thoughts?
The specified square footage.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Just if there's your internal comments, any questions or in general thoughts?
You want to see?
I've seen it. In my opinion, professionally, what I do on a day-to-day basis, I think it'd be very easy to create this within the square footage needed. The bathroom also, as it stands, is not ADA compliant, so the thought process of the extended square footage in order to be ADA compliant does not apply. So personally, I would like to see it within the square footage as well.
You could also increase the square footage of main residence.
Okay. All right. Anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah. So, could we make a condition that applies, or does that have to be completely redone to another application to get it?
No, would you make a recommendation potentially to recommend approval with the exception that the square footage be limited to the maximum allowed under the ordinance? And then council would decide.
Okay.
Instead of just outright denying.
All right, I make a motion that we recommend approval with conditions to City Council of the request by Paul Tausch with Trinity Construction LLC on behalf of James Bell Revocable Trust for the approval of a special use permit to allow a guest house located at 31244 Sunlight Drive, Liberty, Texas 78163. And the conditions are as follows: that the guest house be amended to be within the 717.
Do you want to do that, or you want to say 33% in case he wants to increase the size?
Or yes, to be within 33% of the main dwelling.
And not to exceed 1,000.
Not to exceed 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Who wants it?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. 2.5, hold a public hearing and consider a request by Trimark Developments LP and One Stop Group LP on behalf of Dash Interest LLC and Akper Ally, I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that, for the establishment of a planned development district for single-family, multifamily, and commercial uses on approximately 387 acres at 31575 Highway 281 North, Woolworth, Texas 78163.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. This item is a request for the establishment of a PDD, Plan Development District, with the base zoning of R2 Single Family Residential District, R5 Multifamily Residential District, and C2 Commercial District on the approximately 387-acre McCarty Ranch property on Highway 281. The purpose of this PDD is to establish the base zoning district alterations to the city's code of ordinances for the single-family, multifamily, and commercial zoning districts. The staff report was broken into 3 sections based on the corresponding zoning district. In the R2 single-family residential portion of the PDD, the applicant is proposing between 234 and 240 single-family lots. These single-family residences are proposed to be off-grid, meaning they will not be serviced by a traditional water, electric, or telecommunications provider. For their utilities, they're proposing septic systems, rainwater harvesting, solar panels, and satellite-based internet. In addition to the base R2 zoning district, the applicant is requesting alterations to the city's code of ordinances as detailed in the staff report. The modifications are related to waiving the lot aspect ratio requirement for residential lots, reducing the minimum right-of-way width and altering standards for street pavement width, reducing the street minimum centerline radius, reducing the street centerline alignment, reducing the minimum right-of-way for cul-de-sacs, altering the method of calculation of lot frontage for cul-de-sac lots, reducing the area of a tree survey, altering tree mitigation requirements, allowing for encroachment of residential lots within riparian buffers, and then altering requirements to allow for unlimited disturbance in all slope categories, unlimited cuts and fills, and tree removal within the areas of allowed disturbance as defined in the application. The R5 multifamily residential portion of the PDD is approximately 13 acres of the site. For utilities, they are proposing a wastewater treatment plant, water provided by a public water system, gas and electricity by CPS Energy, and telecommunications from AT&T or Starlink. As part of the PDD request, they're requesting authorization for a water storage facility and a water booster pump station. The proposed location of the water storage facility is within the R5 multifamily. It's in the teal box on this map. In addition to the base R5 zoning district, the applicant is requesting alterations to the code of ordinances as detailed in the staff report. The alterations are related to reducing the minimum right-of-way width and altering standards for street pavement widths, reducing the street minimum centerline radius and street centerline alignment, reducing the area for a tree survey, altering tree mitigation requirements, and altering requirements to allow for unlimited disturbance in all slope categories, unlimited cuts and fills, and tree removal within the areas of allowed disturbance as defined in the application. The C2 commercial portion of the PDD is approximately 45 acres of the site. They're proposing the same utilities as the R5 multifamily, being the wastewater treatment plant, water provided by a public water system, electricity and gas from CPS, telecommunications from AT&T or Starlink. The proposed location of the water booster pump station and wastewater treatment plant are in the C2 area, which is the blue box and the purple box fronting Highway 281. In addition to the base C2 zoning district, the applicant is requesting the same modifications as the R5 district as detailed in the staff report. Once again, these modifications are related to reducing the minimum right-of-way width and altering standards for street pavement width, reducing the street minimum centerline radius and street centerline alignment, reducing the area for a tree survey, altering tree mitigation requirements, and altering requirements to allow for unlimited disturbance in all slope categories, unlimited cuts and fills, and tree removal within the areas of allowed disturbance as defined in the application. At the time of the staff report, staff had not received any written notices of support or opposition. As of today, staff received 7 written notices, which are provided for each of you today. The applicant does have a presentation and exhibits they would like to present to the commission.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Ferris Clements. I'm with
Yes, so
Armbruster
really,
Brown.
really quickly,
Yes.
thank you so much for being here. I just want to remind you of the 25-minute limit.
Yes.
And I'll give you a 5-minute limit.
Perfect. We've got a couple speakers, so all good. Good evening. I'm Ferris Clements. I'm with Armbruster Brown. I'm here on behalf of Dash Interest LLC. Dash is the property owner of McCarty Ranch. This PDD application covers the full property, including the single family area, the commercial area, and the multifamily area. Trimark is involved with the single family portion through a separate arm's length transaction with Dash, and Ken Brown will walk you through that part of the application on behalf of Trimark. Before Ken does that, I want to give you a little bit of background on the property from the owner's perspective. I'll also come back after Ken to address the commercial and multifamily pieces. As you all know, the McCarty Ranch, it's a large hill country tract with challenging topography. Dash and its ownership group have owned the property for roughly 20 years as a long-term land investment, and then they're now looking to move forward in a way that is consistent with the property's history and its existing zoning. The history here is worth a minute. The property was not always in the city. After annexation, the city granted the current zoning in 2017 and later approved a master development plan for the property. This MVP is no longer active, and we understand that, but it's useful background because it shows the general development pattern the city has recognized at that time, which was 1 acre single family, multifamily acreage, and commercial capacity. The property, as you all know, has 4 zoning districts today: C2 commercial, R5 multifamily, R2 1 acre single family, and R3 half acre single family lots. So this application is not starting from a blank slate. The PDD takes those existing zoning areas and dresses them all together. There was a prior PDD last year that covered only the single family portion. My understanding is that it received a recommendation from P&C, but was later denied at council. This application is a bit broader. It covers the entire property, including the commercial and multifamily areas. From the owner's standpoint, that is the better way to handle it because those areas are critical portions of this property and should be playing with the rest of it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ken Brown, who's here for Trimark to present the single family portion. And I'll come back after Ken to address the commercial and multifamily pieces.
Sorry, I had retina surgery, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to see this, so bear with me. My name is Ken Brown. I want to be clear that I represent Trimark Development. They have the single family portion of this property under contract, and that is what I am speaking to. What they went through the last time with the PDD, went to city council, heard the concerns of the neighbors, and I believe are coming back with a more thoughtful proposal that works with the property and allows the conservation of a lot of the natural resources on the property. Can you keep going? Okay, stop it. That's fine. Go back to, please. All right. So what we are proposing is 234 self-sufficient homesteads on 1 acre each. We average about the lots average about 1.4 acres, leaving 85% of it into a natural habitat. 14, a little over 14% is going to be impervious cover, and 85% of the existing trees will be retained. Next one. So we're committed to a conservation framework, and these are our commitments and how we intend to obtain those. And that is the low density development, the rainwater harvesting, solar power, the stormwater recycling and reuse, dedicated conservation areas, optimized site planning to protect trees and minimize disturbance, native drought tolerant landscaping, higher flood mitigation standards, wildlife conservation awareness and planning, and mindful stormwater management for water quality in the contributing zone. Next. This is just sort of a rehash of what each home in being self-sufficient, which is the rainwater harvesting, the solar paneling, the on-site wastewater, satellite connectivity, and the zero scale. As I said earlier, 85% will remain in its natural habitat. 85% of the trees will remain. Low impervious cover, 50 acres of open space, 7 acres of park space, and a 100-foot buffer along the western property line. Next. I'm going to go over the rainwater harvesting because you may have questions, and there's someone, the owner is here and our engineer is here. So I'm not going to go line by line to belabor it. You may have questions about it. We have shown this proposal to a number of the region's conservation leaders, the Hill Country Alliance, the San Antonio River Authority, the Edwards Aquifer Authority, Great Springs Project, and the City of San Antonio's Parks and Recreation, and they are supportive of this concept. So there aren't a lot of examples of this, but I thought you would want to know. There is a project called Terra Siena. It is much smaller, 14 homes, about 1 acre, 100% rainwater, 100% on-site wastewater. It's been around in the family for a long time, but it started this process in 2011. As you can see, there's 14 homes. They've been doing rainwater harvesting the entire time, and 8 of them have swimming pools. As I said, nothing of this kind exists at this scale, but there are other projects either in the works or of a smaller scale. If you want to ask, you can ask the owner about those projects. So we are doing a much lower density that is allowed in the current zone. As I said, our average lots are 1.4 acres, something like that. We are reducing the density by 35% under what is allowed in the base zoning that we have right now. As I said, we are trying to work with the terrain and not against it. Sorry. We have had the engineer look into these instances of disturbance, tiered slope protection or preserve stabilization has been required. It's another question for the engineer if you want. The drainage and riparian buffers, we are not waiving any standards. Once again, the impervious cover is below 15%. We have 3 detention ponds, 27 acres of riparian buffers that affect 46 of the lots. Already mentioned the canopy that will be retained. 85% of the existing trees will be retained. There will be a 5-phase build out of the 234 lots. So the total build out is 234 lots. We're capped at 240, or that is our proposal. These are the requests for modifications. Staff mentioned them in each of the PDD areas. I'm only here for the single family area. These are substantially similar to the requests that came before you a little over a year ago. These are, once again, we believe we need these so we can work with the property instead of doing some sort of cookie cutter, housing project. So we believe we need these to get the 234 lots for 240 tax. But these are substantially similar to the conditions that are modifications that we requested last. We also believe that we are advancing the goals of Sunrise to 2050. That is the end of my presentation regarding, and once again, that was just about the single family portion of the project. Thank you for bearing with me.
All right. The commercial portion is currently zone Z2. It's about 45 acres. We're not asking the city to add new commercial zoning here. That zoning part is in place. PDD is doing is allowing the area to be developed in a practical way, given the slopes and the grading, access, trees, and the utility needs on that portion of the site. This is also where the shared utilities are located, including the wastewater treatment plant and the booster pump station that serve the commercial and multifamily areas. That's different from the single family portion. The single family lots are designed around wastewater harvesting and individual septic. The commercial and multifamily areas need water and wastewater service, and PDD shows how that service will be handled. And if there are any engineering questions on any of this, we have Abe Dawson here to discuss those. The multifamily portion is currently zoned R5. It's about 13 acres. The PDD recognizes and preserves that zoning, and it coordinates it with the rest of the property. The water storage for the shared C2 and R5 utility system is located in this area. And like the commercial portion, the requested modifications are limited to practical site and utility items. On drainage, we are not asking for any relief from the city's drainage standards. The plan is intended to comply with the city's drainage rules. We know downstream drainage has been a concern, and we believe that with one coordinated plan with detention reviewed through the city's normal process is the better way to address that issue. The final drainage calculations and construction plans, utility permits, TCEQ review, fire access, and related technical details all come later on through that regular review process. So just to bring it all together, this PDD has three things. First, it allows the single family area to move forward on a 1 acre plan at a lower density than what applies to part of the property today. Second, it recognizes and preserves the commercial and multifamily zoning that is already present. And third, lays out the limited PDD modifications needed for this property's terrain and utility needs while leaving the city's drainage, stormwater, flood, and impervious cover standards in place. From the owner's perspective, this is an orderly way to do it and bring the property forward and give the city a clear picture of how the property is intended to develop. So with that, I'll close out and thank you all for your time tonight. And our team is here to answer any questions that you'll have. Appreciate it.
Okay, is there anyone who would like to go first? I do have a list of questions if you guys want me to go first and see if I can capture them all, or.
Sure. Go for it. That's a good thing.
Let's see. I'm gonna start first with just the presentation. You're on slide 10. It says that this was developed with the region's conservation leaders and with unanimous excitement and support. Do you have letters of support from these organizations or not?
Good evening, Samir Shahadi. I'm with Trimark, and again, we will be speaking strictly from Trimark perspective. I will answer a lot of questions. We have been in contact with Dash, of course, because they wanted us to integrate all this within the PDD. So the PDD came out under our name, but it's really from Dash perspective, we're only representative of Dash. We have not bought the property. So ultimately, it's their property. We will speak mostly tonight on the single family, but I can answer some of the questions based on my conversation with Dash. Whatever I'm certain with, I can answer. But again,
we will talk specifically about. I wanted to frame why I'm standing here in front of you. In terms of, excuse me, in terms of this, we have been working for the past while. The denial of our application back in October forced us to think a little bit different about the Hill Country, to learn more about the Hill Country. And honestly, I fell in love with the Hill Country. So we thought, can we potentially do something different? We consulted with a whole bunch of organizations. We conducted a ton of research on rainwater harvesting, specifically. In fact, I remember Ms. Molinas at the town hall meeting, you mentioning to me, this is something we should be exploring. And honestly, I didn't pay a lot of attention to that, and I apologize. But as we went through this process, I'm like, oh my God, you should have done it earlier. So Hill Country Alliance, we met with multiple people at the Hill Country Alliance on multiple occasions. So we met with San Antonio River Authority. In fact, I'm meeting with them again next week at the highest level of the organization. We met with the Edwards Aquifer Authority on a couple of occasions. I know I'm on record, so I know I'm truthful about all of this. Great Springs Project, San Antonio Parks and Recreation. Now, we are actually forming an advisory board to help us guide through this process. This is not the only property we're looking at. We have another property in Bear County, just adjacent to Helotes in ETJ. And we have a third property just north of Comfort in Kerr County. All of these, we are applying the same concept. 1 acre lots, rainwater harvesting. We've done, again, a ton of research in that space, and we believe we're betting the farm on that. And trust me, we will not be doing that. Some people will stand up. I saw some of the letters. I will say, no, is this possible? Is it not? It is possible. Terrasana in the Hill Country, in Hayes County, they have been up and running since 2011. The lady who owned it, Catherine Worth.
Samir, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The question was if you have any letters of support.
We do not. We do not. But I'm happy to get you all of that.
That would
Like for council.
Yes,
Be happy
thank
to.
you. Next question. The 85% tree retention figure that is on your presentation as well, is that a binding commitment in the PDD? Or is it just a projection? And if binding, will you accept it as an enforceable condition?
We would accept that as an enforceable condition within just a little bit of leeway. The 10%, maybe 5%.
So 80 to 90%.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a fair request, I believe. We have work from Kate Dawson here as well. Those numbers came about from the grading plan that we did. So I believe it's in there. I can't remember which exhibit that is. So that is what drove the that particular.
Thank you. Great. Next question. The binding lot cap is at 240 lots, and the binding riparian cap is at 55. Though the exhibits that you have in your packet illustrate 234 and 46. The conceptual site plan is expressly non-binding and may be altered at plating. So what actually holds you to the conservation pictures shown tonight as opposed to a more permissive ceiling the application authorizes?
All right, I'm going to clarify the question. So is the question about the number of, first of all, the number of lots? And is there a discrepancy? We have always maintained between 232 and 234 lots. And we are saying we will not exceed 240. I don't believe we'll honestly exceed 234. The way it stands right now, we're pretty tight as it stands. In terms of encroachment on the riparian buffer, we know it's 46 lots. Just that as we go through the detailed engineering plans, we expect that there may be some modifications to the plan. So as such, we thought we'd just pushing it a little bit. That was from the previous PDD as well. We didn't change much of that. Does that answer your question?
And do you see it, like the conservation hope that you're putting forward on this PDD changing? Because technically it can change from what it is now then into the plating process. Like, do you see extra lots being added? Do you see the parkland going away? Do you see any of the drainage going away?
No, no. Honestly, we've put so much effort and money into this. We're at the point where the quality and the standard of this particular site plan, we have not had to do anything like this before at the zoning level, never. Where we have grading plan, where we have even wildlife survey that we've done. We had a tree inventory for the whole property, 388. No, sorry, for the 329 acres. We've done a lot of work, drainage analysis, about 3 of them. So we've done a lot of work to ensure that that the city, the citizenship, everybody is comfortable with this particular project. And I believe we went the extra mile to be able to prove that, so that when we get to platting, there are no surprises. We're quite confident from a platting perspective. And again, I'm happy to get Brooke to come up. She's with Dawson. She's been with us for a long time working on this aspect of the project. And for the other aspect of the project, which is very important to Dash, we have not gone through any substantial engineering work on it. It's important to understand that because what we have done is basically just did a generic site plan. The intention for these other 2 zoning areas just to preserve them. Because there was some conversation, people heard it about potentially converting the property to 5-acre lots, and that scared some people. That that investment was not made in that property with the view of it being converted to 5-acre lots. So that's it.
Thank you. So just so I'm going to restate kind of what you're asking for generally. You're defining as allowed area of disturbance, which is the 40-foot ROW and 50 feet on either side, the building footprint, which includes the driveway, plus 20 feet on either side, and then in quotes, any areas necessary to allow positive drainage. So that's the part that I have some questions about. And you also have another statement within your packet saying that the project plan, if there's a conflict between the project plan and our city ordinances, that the project plan would be the control over our code instead. So I want you to walk us through exactly what protections remain in force on this site, and if this is adopted, and what areas on the map those protections apply to. And I think maybe the steep slope map would be the best one for us to look at.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Brooke, give Dawson here in a second. But I wanted to clarify what is the driver behind all this laundry list, what looks like extensive list of variances. It's a balance between how much we're conceding in terms of density, how much we're giving up in terms of density, and be able to make this project financially viable. Financial viability means a little bit more density. We tried so hard to just minimize disturbance, follow the topo properly, as well as making sure we're not encroaching very much. In fact, if you look at most encroachment, it's like very, very tiny. I'm addressing this as a goal in terms of the variances because everything is driven by the fact that we just needed a little bit more density to make this viable. By giving up a lot of density here, we just needed to maximize the 1 acre lot. That's all. Everything you see is driven by that. On the cut and fill and slope disturbance, it's very important we all remember that the code allows for unlimited cut and fill within the ROW and within on the pad, on the building pad. Very important to all remember that. What it doesn't do is it doesn't allow for unlimited disturbance between the ROW and the pad. So you said the driveway is part of it. If that's the case, that's perfect.
I think your application, if I'm not mistaken.
We are asking for the driveway to be, because we need to link the ROW to the pad, right? So the area of disturbance, we wanted to have a clear definition as to exactly what we are asking for, so that you can bind us by that, right? So I'm going to turn it over to Brooke because she worked on the math on that. So, Brooke, please go ahead.
Is this the right exhibit for you?
I believe it will be, but there might be a better one, Brooke, if you're thinking. So I can ask my question again. If you need me to?
Well, I guess I'll just clarify. The intent is obviously with the large lot subdivision is not to do mass grading. The intent is just to allow us to get from, as Samir said, from the road to the pad. And because the city has regulations for grades on roads, we're just not able to match the existing slopes with the roads to meet the city ordinances. And so there's cut and fill that's being proposed within the roads to meet the fire code with the slopes of the road. And as a result of the cut and fill that's happening on the road, we just need to be able to get up to the pad. So the intent of the variance is not to, carte blanche say we're grading the whole site. It's just to say we need to be able to get from the road on a driveway up to the house pad. And then if there are areas where, because the roads didn't fill and the lot is sitting below the road, that we don't want to create a hole in between where the road and the house is. And so that's just that's what that positive drainage language in the PDD is saying, that we don't want to create holes where water has nowhere to go. Does that answer the question?
Yes, in a way. I was more curious about which areas on this map won't be disturbed. So I'm assuming it's all the white areas.
Pretty much anything behind the house would not be disturbed. And honestly, the intent would also be that where we can, we would not be disturbing the front yards as well. It's just at this stage, we don't have a specific grading plan. We have a generic grading plan. That's what you're seeing represented here. But when we got into design, we would definitely be minimizing the amount of grading that we would be doing on the lots.
Let's see. So next question. Article 17.03 of our code prohibits disturbance above 25% slope, regardless of zoning. Your definition of the allowed areas of disturbance approves disturbance regardless of slope percentage. So are you asking us to recommend overriding the steep slope article entirely? And if so, can you show us on the map where you would be disturbing over the 25% slope?
I don't have that information in front of me. I mean, again, it would just be from the areas where we need to get from the road to the house.
Okay, and also in our staff report, staff says it's possible that no tree mitigation would be required anywhere under this definition of the allowed areas of disturbance. Is that your intent?
What?
For no tree mitigation, is that your intent?
No tree mitigation in terms, can you define that?
So our code of ordinances have tree mitigation. You're requesting in your application to not have any of that within these allowed areas of disturbance.
Within the areas of disturbance, we will need that, we will need tree mitigation. We need to be allowed to clear trees, to put the roads in, and to put paths, to build homes. That's the only place where we need that kind of, so that's why we decided to define that areas of disturbance so that we're absolutely clear what we're asking for in terms of trees, in terms of cut and fill, right? Always remembering that cut and fill is allowed unlimited within the RW and on the pad. That's for your code. So when we say over 30%, this is consistent with the code, right? I just wanted to clarify.
So I believe our code, and Danny, you may need to correct me. I believe, yes, there's a cut and fill where that is true within the 4 feet that we normally have. But there is a chart of steep slope where anything over 25% you cannot disturb, no matter what the zoning is.
The zoning doesn't impact it, right? But within right of ways, you can, because they're governed by the things like the fire code. Fire trucks got to be able to move at a certain slope or at a certain angle. If that requires them to go through a 25% slope, in that good part only, they're allowed to do that without a variance.
What about with the building pad?
And the building pad, now, you're not allowed to build in 25-foot slope areas under the code. Those have to be set aside I'm forgetting the exact term, it's an easement of some kind, steep slope easement. There wouldn't be a building footprint in a steep slope under normal circumstances.
But this would allow that.
But I'll point out I think the discrepancy here is that the application says that they do not want to have to provide tree mitigation within the area of disturbance. And then it says they want to limit tree mitigation to only $200,000. However, they also say they're not going to do any tree removal outside of the area of disturbance. So there's nowhere where, if this was adopted, there's nowhere where you'd be cutting down trees that you wouldn't be exempted from mitigation. You'd only have to pay mitigation under the way this is written if you went out into the areas you just said you don't want to go into and started cutting trees down. That was the inconsistency.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
If you were intending for that to be what you were asking for.
Yeah, honestly, maybe there was confusion on our end. We apologize for that. We thought we will have to mitigate within the areas so that if we're cutting something, we have to pay for it. And if that is not the case, then honestly, we will not need any mitigation.
Well, there are, I'll point out, you're right about the right of way, but this is asking for 50 feet beyond the right of way on both sides. It's asking for 20 feet around the building envelope and 20 feet around the driveway. Those are all areas that are not exempt today.
Correct. But if
And technically, whatever's required for positive drainage flow is also in this as well.
Yes. Okay, so I'm happy to answer that. Well, if you buy a house, wouldn't you like to have a backyard? And if you're on a slope going up and you can only cut the pad, this means your back is like literally in the slope. I mean, it's impossible for us to grade and to be able to give people a nice home without a backyard. And if you're
I will
not,
say there are areas of this country that do have many hills and slopes and topography where there's other engineering aspects they can do to build houses, and those people who live in those communities know that there is no yard. I'm originally from one of those areas, so I think in our area here we do have hills and topography, and people that live here I think would understand they don't have a yard.
well, if this is the wish that you would want people not to have a yard, I mean, it's not our preference. We would like to sell homes where people would enjoy them if they have kids. They don't have to be in the front by the street. They can be in the back and enjoy safety, enjoy being able maybe to have a little pool if they want to. I don't believe 20 foot is unreasonable request around the house. If you believe that's the case, then I mean, honestly, I don't know what to do about that. We believe anybody here in this room would like to have a little bit of space around their house for the kids to enjoy the property. That's all. I mean, that's the only reason why we're asking for this. And all of this will amount for, again, 14.17% of the whole property. It's important that we put this into context, right? And I don't think it's outrageous for us to ask for people to have a backyard. I mean, honestly, I know you may not agree with that, but you know, I have kids, I have 2 daughters.
I think people would choose where they would want to live. If you want to have a backyard, then maybe you wouldn't choose this neighborhood. But if you don't need a backyard, or you care more about preserving our hill country topography, then maybe you would choose this neighborhood if you used other.
Fair enough. I'm not going to argue with you, but if I'll present you with one idea for you to, or a perspective for you to consider. If we stick to the pad and we cut right to the pad, this means there's no window. The window is the hill, the cut, right? It's important to understand that. So you're blocking the whole back if you don't give the room for the pad. Yeah, you're building on the pad. Building pad is where the walls are. So you can choose to just do that. I don't know if that's allowed in the fire code. I don't know how that would work in so many dimensions. Honestly, I'm not an engineer. I am an engineer, but not this.
Are you building the homes on this property?
We are intending to be, yes. We will be a participant, and we typically don't like to do vertical. We like to do the horizontal work, right? And then we partner with builders. In this particular case, it's probably going to be multiple builders. that we'll partner with. We may decide to do our own. I intend to have a house in Bulgaria. So honestly, I'd like you to build my own house. Now,
As far as the developers, you are not going to be the builders.
I'm sorry?
You are not going to be the builders, you're going to be.
We do not like to be builders. We tried it before. It's a lot of work, honestly. I'm too old for that. We prefer to get people that are very good at it, or very good at doing the infrastructure work. We prefer to just work with partners that can do the vertical work better. That's all.
All right, next question for you, really quick. The entirety of the single families, you're suggesting and requesting that they'll be entirely on rainwater harvesting and on-site septic. What happens to residents if the rainwater capture falls short in the drought?
So we have at least 8 studies that we conducted on this area with historical data going back 30 years with people that are really knowledgeable in the space. We're happy to provide that information. We are not betting the farm on possible doesn't work. I can assure you of that. We presented this example of the Hayes County development, Terracena. They've been through all the drought, multiple iterations of drought. My understanding is that most of them did not have to do any refilling. Now, refilling, making sure that you can track water in absolute necessity, or we can have multiple backup plans, right? We can have backup plans where we can have the odd well that will feed typically the fire suppression tanks, because that's something we need to address, obviously. We need to comply with the IFC requirements, and we have not requested any variances around that. To be 100% compliant with the IFC requirements. We will have dedicated tanks that will also be fed by rainwater harvesting, with the exception of if we are in drought, we will have a few wells in the property that will allow us to feed into those tanks and then be able to take on an emergency basis. There's already a couple wells in the property, so it's not like those wells exist. They've existed for a long time. So there is another source of water available to us as we speak right now.
All right, next question.
Yeah,
really quick.
Is there any precedent for having 1 acre, acre and a half tracts with private water service? Because it's been my experience that in Comal County, they treat the rainwater harvesting the same as a well. And so they don't classify one different from another. So why are you have 5 acres for to have rainwater harvesting?
So I'll tell you something about that. We looked at their code. The code is very vague. It does not address rainwater harvesting as a well. It says basically, if you're on public water, this is your minimum, and if you are on well, this is your minimum. So when the code is silent, municipal code is silent, you always refer back to state law, and state law is clear on that. State law is a little bit of an interesting setup. State law says half acre if you are on public water and you have septic. Otherwise, it's 1 acre. The otherwise, in this case, includes rainwater harvesting. So there's the exact same issue as in Bear County, just so you know. And these are reasonable conversations people can have. Reality is there is no specific. We're not breaking code because we're not having a well.
Correct. But I think the last classification is very good. I mean, this could all be for naught is what I'm getting at. Because in my experience, my own experience, the same hurdle I've come up against this, and Comal County has shrugged their shoulders and said, no one's ever tried to do this. So this is an uphill battle.
Well, somebody has tried to do this.
So I just wanted to see how far you took it, because I did not take it maybe as far as yourself, but then kind of consult to the council.
Yes. So a couple of things I would like to just touch on that. Out of all the counties that we've talked to, the Terra Sena example is in Hayes County. Hayes County has regulations on rainwater harvesting since 2011. They are the most progressive county. And the thing is, state, at this point in time, I mean, they passed so many bills specific to rainwater harvesting. They're encouraging it across the state. They're acknowledging something that is a must. And there's actually a law that basically disallows municipalities, municipal government from denying approval based on the fact that development is rainwater harvesting. Now, that does not address the issue of 1 acre versus 5 acre, right? State law is clear on it, it's 1 acre. Hayes County is 1 acre because they stick with state law. Now, again, when we're not breaking any rules, we're not breaking the code, and we're sticking with state law. So if the county decides to change the regulations to make it 5 acre, then that will address that.
I have one last question, and then I'll move it on to someone else. So the R5 and C2 portion of this property, the wastewater plant hinges on a mud that doesn't exist yet. If no mud is approved, what is your fallback? And do you accept that this PDD cannot itself create or assume one?
Create
or assume one?
Or assume one, as in a wastewater treatment plant.
In a mud.
Well, I'll tell you something. We're lacking engineering plans at this point in time, right? To say that the wastewater is going to be like exactly in that location, to say that the booster pumps are going to be exactly in that location. We know the water storage is going to be high level, so we assume it's going to be like just around that area where we put it. But again, that's outside the single family. But for Dash, it's very important they have assurance that if they were granted zoning that they can build it, and they cannot build it without having a wastewater treatment, without having booster pumps to be able to service the property, right? So I believe, and I don't want to speak on their behalf, I believe that from my discussion, I understand that they would really like assurance that this is something that would be available to them, even though it may not be, for instance, specific to a particular location on the property. And if it's attached, if conditions are attached to it, I'm pretty sure they'll be okay with that. Understanding that, there are no engineering plans, firm engineering plans at this point. Does that answer your questions?
A little bit. My question is more, if you don't get it, what is your solution then?
If they don't get
can I clarify? She's
Yeah,
asking
please.
specifically if the city later denies an application to create a municipal utility district, can your project still move forward with other financing mechanisms?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
How was that?
Would you like to go first? Any
You
other
asked very
questions?
humbling questions.
What's that? You're good? Gordon?
Yes, I had a couple of questions. All right, first of all, I wanted to clarify something on the wells. I looked at the county site on this, and this is an old piece of property, and of course, all the records are not perfect. It appears to me there's 3 wells on this property now. There may be more, but 3 residences on this property over a period of time. So the wells that are there are shallow wells, and they were built from single house, entities or single homes. And there's probably livestock wells too there we don't know about. But I mean, Danny, what's our requirement and our rules here in the city are they can't drill any new wells. Maybe they can use the wells that they have, right? But they're going to be limited about how much water they can produce.
Well, if we wanted to limit the well use of the existing wells, we'd have to write it into the planned development district. I mean, that they're old residential wells, right? These are not old production wells. So
No, they're not production wells. They're old residential wells. That's what I'm saying. They're going to build 234 houses on a piece of property that had 3 houses, 3 wells for those 3 houses. So I don't think the amount of water coming out is going to be adequate to do fire suppression a whole block of lithium
Well,
batteries.
that's a question. I don't think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you're proposing a fire suppression network in this neighborhood with red fire hydrants, are you?
Yes, we are.
Oh, you are? Okay, well then.
So we have,
question.
we will have tanks. Our initial calculations, and again, we'll be fully compliant with the RC. We will have tanks that will serve dual purpose.
Okay.
Those tanks will be one for fire suppression, and we will have, and we're, I believe our calculations are one for every 16 homes. Right. The second thing, so they would be fed by rainwater harvest.
Right, and that, excuse me, I don't interrupt you. Yeah, you were saying, my question, I guess, and it was my fault. Rainwater harvesting is gonna be your primary, but the wells were gonna be your secondary backup. But my concern is that secondary backup, if we're in a drought situation where we don't have adequate rainwater and we have shallow wells, are we gonna have enough water in the wells to work as a secondary backup, you know?
Fair enough, and I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. So I'll rephrase it. Those tanks for fire suppression will have a dual purpose. They will be used for fire suppression as well as a backup for drought season. Now, if we are using them as backup, we will replenish them. HOA will replenish them. We'll just truck in water for that to ensure that those tanks are filled all the time. Again, I'm not an authority.
So we're gonna truck in one. Okay, that's the.
Yes.
Okay.
If needs, yeah. Oh yeah, that's the other. Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Okay. All right. My other question is, okay. You spend a lot of money on this, and this is always, and you always do a fabulous job. Like I said, like I told you before, if I ever needed you to represent me, I think it'd be great. I would get off with multiple murder. But
that's an unfair characteristic.
But the problem I have here is that we have ordinances in the city that we write, and they are all encompassing, and they can be tweaked, which is why we do variances. I mean, wouldn't it be simpler for you to just follow all the ordinances and bypass us completely? Because to be honest with you, houses get built every day. We don't see any paperwork on those because they just come in and go, okay, we'll follow these ordinances and call the inspector out, and we don't see those people. They just do what's in the rules. But in your case, you're coming in and you're rewriting all our ordinances, and it's not enhancing the safety, because what you're talking about with the streets and the right-of-ways and the pavement and so forth, in the cul-de-sac geometry, if you're going to put all these battery banks and all these houses, God help you if you do it and get it done for the solar panels, you're going to have all these 234 houses with lithium battery banks in their garages or out back or somewhere. One day, one of them's going to catch fire. And the fire trucks are going to come in. If you have a 22-foot wide street or 28-foot wide street, and you have to have chemical tankers come in to suppress this fire, and water won't do it, you're going to have the street and the right-of-ways wide enough, and then you're going to have to get ambulances around that. I've made this argument several times. It's a safety issue. In other words, the things that you're asking us to modify, I wish you would just go ahead and figure out a way where you could bypass this completely. Your engineers are good enough where you can meet our standards and not have to come back in here. I think you ask for too much so that you can ask for 10 and come down to 6. And I think it's basically just a profit grab on your part to make money, which I don't blame you. I do the same thing. But if you can fit within the requirements, God help you. But I just don't think that what we're doing here, when we look at some of the things that you're asking, are enhancing the beauty and the safety of our residents. And I guess my question here is isn't there a way that your engineers can figure out how to fit within our requirements without asking for so many variances?
All right, so I would like to start by taking exception to your characterization that basically I'm some kind of crook who can sell anything to anyone. We have not
No, I don't think I said
Well,
that.
if you said I can get away with murder, if you want.
No, I said I could get away with murder if you represent.
Right, that's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what I mean, right? And I urge you to please retract that.
Okay. Well, I apologize if you took offense to that.
Thank you, I did. So, we have never lied to this commission. We have never lied.
No, I never said you would.
Okay, thank you. So, in terms of your question on the ROW, for instance, and what we're asking for, this is an appropriate slide. The current code says 60-foot ROW, 22-foot pavement. We came back saying 28-foot. We're gonna increase it by 6 feet to accommodate actually your comment from the first time we came, so that we can increase it to increase safety. It's gonna cost us an arm and a leg to do that across the whole. But honestly, we wanted to do it so to show you how serious we are about safety. Now, the 60 again to 40, we're not reducing. Again, we're increasing the pavement. What we are doing is, in order for us to honor the 1 acre lot, all we're asking for is that we're taking 40 feet and we're doing 10 feet on each side as an easement, a drainage easement, inside the lot. The allocation continues to be 60 feet technically of an ROW. It's just that the drainage is gonna be inside the lots instead of outside the lots. That's it. So I believe what we're asking for, again, cut and fill trees. Are you expecting us to not cut between the ROW where we're allowed to cut and the path? How is that an unreasonable request?
No.
For us to come in and say, you know what, we need that variance. But the moment you ask for that variance, just that variance, affects a whole bunch of things that you've seen. If you have asked us to reduce the density from to go from half acre to 1 acre, which we honored, that was 3 meetings with previous council, a presentation to the previous council. We got clear direction that 1 acre is the way this council, the city wants it. We went back seven different site plans we presented. We came back delivering exactly what we were requested, or what it was suggested for us to come back with. We reduced density. We gave that. And you make it sound like we're not giving any concessions, that we reduced our density by 35% in terms of cost, in terms of what we're giving away in revenue. I urge you to go work on that. Okay? I believe we are doing what's best for the city, what's best for the hill country, and anybody who comes back and says, oh, you know what, we're cutting trees when we're not supposed to be cutting trees. Well, we need a driveway to get from the ROW to the house. We need that. And if we're being denied that, we are being denied any kind of development on this property. So this property has its issues. It's a very steep, has areas that are very steep, and the current code, nobody can get around. If you said, well, you know what, yeah, people, they're working with gentle hills. They're not working with hills like this, right? So every single variance we are asking for is about allowing us to work with 1 acre lots, which is what basically the city really wanted, as well as to basically be able to accommodate that and give us just enough density to be able to make it financially viable. That was the whole premise. I mean, why would we ask for encroachment? Some of these lots are encroaching by 2 feet on the riparian lot. It sounds like it's 46 lots. The ones that are truly encroaching that we have to mitigate are 7, like true encroachment. And we're mitigating. So it's not like there's a problem and we're not fixing it. There's a problem and we're fixing it. It's give and take. It's not just take. I just want to answer that. Did I answer your question?
No. No, you didn't.
Okay.
Actually, what you did was just presented your side again for one more time on how you should be allowed more variances than anybody that's ever walked into this room in the 6 years that I've been here, you've asked for more variances than everybody else has ever been in this room. And none of these variances enhance the environment, the safety, or the beauty of this area. Every one of them is for problems. Now, I don't mind that, but let's be objective about it. So your engineering could be redone in some ways that might cost you a few dollars. So that I hate that, and I know you want to make money, and I don't mind making money, but I would like to see you ask your engineers to rework some of the things so that we didn't have so much tree loss, so that you didn't have so much in the cut and fill, so that you didn't change the slopes and so forth to do the roadways in a different manner. And that's just me. Now, I'm not speaking for everybody, I'm speaking for me.
And I invite you to take a look, and that's my last perspective I would like to present you with. If it's about the money, we would not be losing 35% of our density. 35%. You look at it one way, you're not looking at it, you're not being fair. You're not looking at it the other way, what is it worth giving up? You're saying, oh, it's all about the money. If it was all about the money, we would have come back asking for more density, because that is what developers do. Developers don't come in presenting less density and being grilled for it, honestly.
Well,
when we are giving up 35% of our revenue, I believe that's just a fair thing for us to be.
I don't see that you're giving up 35% of revenue, but you know the fact of the matter is you could have walked in here. You could have not walked in here. You could have done everything according to the standards and built half-acre lots all the way through there. And never walked into this room if you'd have just done it according to the city standards. But you obviously think you could make more money with 1 acre lots than half-acre lots, or you would be building half-acre.
I can assure you that's not the case.
Well, then why wouldn't you be building half-acre lots to make more money?
Well, because you guys told us we're being good developers.
Well,
and that's where I take exception, because we are good
Madam
developers.
Chairman, I think we've got strayed from the topic of the.
Okay, yeah, I think we're all, I think we're all, yeah. All right. Thank you, I'm done.
I'm gonna go to Commissioner Molina, and then we'll walk through this way.
Okay. So I wanted to ask about the other 3 developments that you have, like Near Comfort or 2, and then, so do they have the same grade as this? I mean, are you doing the same kind of, the rainwater, the solar and all that on those 2 properties?
Yes, exactly. So the one in Helotes ETJ actually has a lot similar topography, and happens to be inside the county, and the county has no issue with us doing a project exactly like this. So and it's exactly the same specs: rainwater harvesting, OSSF. Honestly, we thought we'd come with this idea, and everybody was so happy about it, and people pumped about the concept that we are establishing new standards in the hill country. It's going to cost us more money to put all that infrastructure in. It's going to cost us more money to put roofs, patching, and put underground storage, so that it's not it's not something that is an eyesore.
Do they go, like, where does the water go when it runs off of the property? Like, I'm concerned about the neighbors that are across 281 from this, and I know that there's all kind of levers for saving water onto the property, but I still have a concern that they get really flooded out every time we have a big flood, like we just had a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is the concern that rainwater catchment will increase the outflow?
No, not at all. I mean, I know that that's part of keeping the water on the property, that you're saving it in the cisterns or the rainwater catchment tanks. But it's just that maybe those other 2 properties don't have the same population down below, is what I'm.
Yeah, so if you look at the drainage analysis we've done, if you look, there are 3 different detention ponds. So the big one is on the right there. Perfect, thank you. So these detention ponds our humble opinion, with rainwater harvesting, one, we are going to be, with our catchment, we're gonna be minimizing the outflow. That's at the house by house basis. But also, the current state of this property, as it stands, the outflow from it is substantial. That's what's causing the flooding. With this development, we're gonna be able to mitigate that. It's gonna be less outflow. Guaranteed it's gonna be less outflow than the current outflow, right? Not just that, the excitement where the Edwards Aquifer Authority and the San Antonio River Authority have about this is the improvement in the quality of the water in the contributing zone, right? Because we're going to be catching a lot of the stuff that is being carried, right? That is also going to, so hopefully, that, you know, with our analysis, and again, that's something that will happen at that time, you will see that building this development will actually positively affect the neighbors.
Okay.
If that,
yeah, it answers.
and again, I'm not blowing smoke, and I'm not overselling. I'm not saying this because of mine.
Any other questions?
No.
Commissioner Burria?
Mr. Bass, this, a PDD carries with property.
Yes, it does.
Okay. For ever. Okay. What is your last name, please?
Shihab.
Mr. Shahab. You just mentioned you can prove the drainage will decrease once you scout this property, more so than the topography today, that this is untouched. What report can you produce to us today to show that proof?
All right, so I would like to answer this in 2 dimensions. This property has not changed since the last time we were here. The last time we were here, we showed you 3 different models. We had an engineer named Alan Stanton, who actually helped the city, this city, write its own drainage ordinance. He's also the one that is currently working with Clark County on mitigating their flooding and drainage. All right. This is a very credible individual who stood here before you 3 times and showed you on 3 occasions. We kept on investing in different models. We had a model that was live model that we showed you on how we would mitigate downstream, how we would mitigate on the property. And you don't have to ask about it today. We've done it yesterday. So, and if you look in your records, if you look at the previous presentations, that was presented to you at that point in time.
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
That was in the past. I'm asking today, what can you produce to us today in your presentation that proves the current untouched topography will drain there will be less drainage than the current topography of untouched property than scalped property into your 4 detention tanks. Let's not talk past, let's talk today.
Are you suggesting, sir, that this property has changed in topography since?
You are suggesting your presentation today has changed since the past. So
this land has not.
I am not going to pull the past. I'm asking today, what can you produce today that proves your claim?
So maybe we're misunderstanding each other.
No, I'm very clear. You're asking me to.
I don't have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And in fact, we could have brought a Dave Dawson has a book. Why don't you?
Sure. I guess I want to clarify that it's not being provided today because it's not a requirement of the PUD application for a drainage analysis, but we also aren't asking for any exceptions to the city's code on the drainage analysis. So the city's code will be followed when we go and submit plans with the drainage analysis demonstrating that there's adequate detention for the site. And then that will be reviewed by the city's engineer before we would get any permits for development. Hopefully that helps clarify.
No.
I mean, we don't have it today because it's not part of the application process.
No, that's fine. So there's been no request for any, we don't have any need for this today.
City council can decide if they feel that it's necessary to require it as part of the application, but it is not a requirement for the initial application.
Okay, Mr. Shah,
Yes, sir.
you also stated that you could have simply followed city code and not come before us today and had a public hearing.
I have not mentioned that, Mr. Porter. No.
I said that.
He said that. I didn't say.
Okay, very good. You have a list of variances that you said unlimited, 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 unlimited. If this PPD is approved today, you own this property, yes?
No, Dash does. We are only interested in purchasing. We have it under contract, but only the single family. So we are not owners yet. If this is not approved, we walk away.
So the R1 and the R2?
R1 and R2. Sorry, R2 and R3.
Excuse me, R2, R4.
R2, R3.
R2 and R3 are the zoning of the single family zoning districts on the property.
Okay, thank you. Why come before us with a laundry list of requests when our city has certain standards that we want in the hill country? When you say you're trying to improve standards by increasing from half acre to 1 acre, however, you're asking us to change every one of our ordinances and say, here you go, Mr. Shihab. Approved, do whatever you want to this property. We're okay. Why?
Well, first of all, I can't answer a question why if the statement may not be corroborated. So why don't we just corroborate the statement first? You said we came asking for unlimited, unlimited, unlimited. You repeated it 5 times. We're asking for extending the unlimited cut and fill that is currently allowed in the city code to be able to allow us to bridge from the ROW to the PAT. Both of these are allowed unlimited. Your code says unlimited. We did not say unlimited. All we asked for is allow that same standard to be able to link the ROW over to the PAT. That is our, and allow for a little bit of space for the kids to play. That's it. That's all we asked for. If that is an unreasonable ask, I don't know how to answer the why. And in what preceded the why. So to say unlimited, that's exaggeration. And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm under personal attack when we are coming in and all we're seeing is just the one side, and slightly exaggerated, honestly, on making claims that we are not asking for. I mean, what we are asking for is very well defined. It's all about extending things that are already allowed, just to be able to link the ROW. That's it. And if you tell me that's an unreasonable thing, I don't know how somebody can jump from the ROW to the PAT without being able to get there. So in terms of those, the ROW, I explained that was not an unlimited affair. There was nothing else that was unlimited besides the cut and fill and the disturbance, which go hand in hand. So the 4 or 5 times of unlimited, sorry, I disagree with, and as such, I don't have to answer the why, because what preceded the why is not necessarily, if that makes sense.
Mr. Chardon,
Fair enough. I'm
Which one of our codes are you not asking for variance for?
Why don't we ask Mr. Gatz?
No.
Because I'll tell you something. Your code, because your code is an extensive code, and if you look
Yeah,
at
and
all the
that's because we like our city.
can I ask a question related to your ROW to the pad? It's a statement's been made several times in this meeting. What does that look like? Is that the driveway? Okay, so what I'm imagining is if you have to make that cut to get the driveway to the pad from the right of way, are there walls on each side of that driveway? I'm trying to imagine what that's look like.
I'll tell you something, we don't know how to get the grader onto the pad without actually grading. I don't know how you guys expect that. You have an engineer, you can ask them, how do you get the equipment from the ROW to grading to get to grade the.
I think to be clear, he's just asking on areas of steep slope where you've got a large cut, how are you getting the driveway in? It's just gonna be like.
We're just following to be able to get this grade linked to the other grade. That's all we're asking for. We're actually surprised that. That's
What happens to the rest of it? Just stop at driveway. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
No, of course we don't touch that.
So you have like, if you're driving through the north or the hill country, northwest of your level. You'll go through the highway will cut through hills where you got walls on each side of you. Is that what the smaller version, is that what it looks like?
No, there's no walls. This is.
If you look at sorry to interrupt,
Yeah,
and we can get them when she comes back, but the steep slope map. So the green boxes on there are the building. Oh, actually, what page
Try
is
like,
that?
it's like 70. You gotta go way back. 69.
So essentially what they're
There you
saying is you have the ROW and then the 15 feet on either side, and then essentially then right where that ROW stops, the 20 feet outside that building pad starts. So it's almost like there's grading. It's continuous all the way to the building.
You have to be
pad.
able to continuously grade back to it.
So even the driveway that's coming through is gonna be part of that section
You're gonna be cutting the whole thing, not just.
all the way through the building pad essentially. So you'll have like one big
That is-
strip and then rectangles kind of
Yeah,
come out
it
of
is.
it for the.
Yeah, and that's like a 20-foot width. Like it's not. We're not talking about grading the whole front of the lot. We're talking about grading from the ROW about 20 feet up the driveway to the pad where we're grading to build the house. That's what we're asking for. I just wanted to be specific. Thank you for asking.
I'm trying to.
Because we're not grading. Remember something, actually two things. Number one is grading costs money, right? So we don't want to be grading where we don't need to grade, right? Minimum grading is the way we would want it as developers. But more importantly, trees sell. Okay, anybody who has a lot of trees, we want to keep, we have incentive as developers to keep every single tree we can keep. If people don't understand that, they think developers want to just come in and erase everything. Yes, some do. If they're building 30-foot lots, 40-foot lots, that's not what we're doing. What we are doing is we want to keep 85% of this property will be kept intact. Trees everywhere. We want it like this. And when we say we're protecting the hill country, we believe we're actually doing that. We really do.
Colin, do you want to go ahead and go?
Yeah, I can go. Thanks for coming again. I know it's a little bit of a tough room, I suppose. So a couple of questions for you, right? So we'll go back to the right of way, since that seems to be a very hot topic. So completely understand what you're trying to do there. I would say that the issue that I have is at the time of your request, and I understand why you're asking now, but the reason that you're probably feeling, and I'm speaking for myself, the reason you're probably feeling some of that is because it does seem very carte blanche, and I get it. You don't want to go take trees out. You don't want to go grade more than you have to. I understand all that very well. That costs a lot of money to do those things. But typically we see those requests on a very specific thing. So you would go out, you do all your engineering, and that request would come in at that time. You say, I need this specific area, this specific area. And I would say we've done a pretty good job as a commission and a council for accommodating those things. Because we get it, you can't have a 40-foot drop off the side of a road. Like, I understand that that's where that is. And so I think that's what gives us a little bit of consternation. And that's why you're feeling that, is the fact that it's a very unknown thing. I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to secure as much as you can, because things might change a little bit. You don't want to have to maybe come re-ask or something like that. We'd almost prefer that you come re-ask. That's kind of what we're saying, right? We say, hey, we want to be protective of the code. That's what we're trying to do here. And so I think that's why you're feeling that a little bit. And that's a little bit for me too, because it is a bit of an ask, right? You say 50 feet outside of that, and so I guess I'll ask another question. Are you putting pads in? Are you putting the pads in?
We have to be putting pads in.
Why do you have to put the pads in?
Well, that's the thing. My preference is that when we're doing horizontal, we don't put the pads, the builder puts the pads, because otherwise we lie.
So that's what I'm asking. So are you putting the pads in?
If for those lots where we would decide to build, yes, we would. But otherwise we would have to grade so that they're able to put the pads, right?
So I guess where I'm really going with my question, I'll just ask you, is the homeowner going to decide where their house goes on the lot, or are you?
We are going to.
You are going to?
Yes, because that will decide on the grading, right? We're not going to be moving equipment every single time we have, or otherwise, the alternative is to grade more than.
Or the alternative is to let the homeowner grade their property when they build their home, like most of the homes in Boulder. Potentially, we would like to have. I'm going to answer your first. It's just very simple. Are you putting the pads in right now?
Well, that's not the first question. I thought you were talking about why we're coming now asking for this.
No, I'm making a comment. My question is, are you putting pads in or not?
We are planning on putting the pads in.
You're planning to put all the pads in?
Yes.
Okay, so the homeowner's not deciding where the pad goes.
Okay.
So how
we're
are
gonna have
you?
a whole bunch of spec. The idea is, because we're paying so much for the land, because we are also the cost, and you would understand that as an engineer. The cost of infrastructure, in this case, the cost of developing the land, does not substantially increase or decrease based on density. If I am able to put 500 lots here, smaller lots with that same configuration, I'll be grading almost exactly the same for the roads, et cetera, et cetera. So our cost of development is substantially higher for a lower density.
Of course.
Thank
per
you.
lot. No, I completely agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So what we're saying is we need to be financing, right? To go to financing, we're gonna need assurance to the bank that they need to know we have the entitlements. And those guys are smart. They're gonna ask exactly about all the entitlements. When we go through an audit through the risk management, they're gonna make sure that we have all the entitlements we need to be able to get this project going. Otherwise, we are not securing financing. So to answer your comment, we're here because we need to be able to go to the bank.
Yeah, I acknowledge that.
That's it. That's why.
Okay. So again, just rapid fire. You're putting in pads.
Yes.
You're doing all of the improvements. Are you putting in the rainwater harvesting systems?
The building. So we have that to be part of the development standards for that. So it's in the PDD. That is enforceable.
Are you putting them in, or is the homeowner putting them in?
No, the builder will be putting them in conjunction with us. So the builders, we are going to have, just so you understand our model, we need to drive the ASP, be able to accommodate the ASP, which is the average sale price. Because of our cost of development being high, right? We need to be able to standardize a whole bunch of things from a building perspective to be able to meet an ASP that is manageable. I don't want to build a $2 million home and limit myself to 0.02% of the population, right? Or like $2 million or $3 million, right? We want to be able to build a home that is affordable by professionals or people who own small businesses, and we want to keep the price point below $1 million. How do you do that? By standardizing, right? We build nice homes, really, really nice homes, but those nice homes will have different flavors, right? But they're not gonna be, like, we're not gonna offer somebody we're not gonna sell lots. But that's what.
Yeah, so I mean, right, like, there's two models here that I typically see, right? Like, a developer comes in, you do a whole bunch of lots, and you just say, hey, go buy the lot, have at it, you do whatever you want. Or you create completely finished lots with utilities and everything on them, and then you sell them to a home builder who then comes in with the lot and builds on the lot. Doesn't sound like you're doing either of those.
Yeah. Well, what we're doing is we are going and designing this property with us doing grading all the way.
Sure.
Okay, and designating where the pads are.
Okay.
Even designating size and designate, like, basically home size.
So you're doing a master plan.
We're master planning the whole community.
Okay. And then you don't really care who builds the home, you're just not going to build it.
Well, we may participate in the building process. I just said that. Like, at this point in time, we need to understand what the bank will give us.
Mm-hmm.
We need to understand, honestly, how we're gonna face this. I mean, we have a phasing plan, so we need to go down in the weeds and spend substantially more money on engineering plans. Before we do that, we want to make sure that this is something we can actually do, that we have the blessings. We cannot take on the risk of, saying, oh, you know what, we have this, but maybe we'll get approved for this, maybe we'll get approved for that. And every time we have public hearings, people will come in and tell you 60 different ways why this is a bad idea.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to determine who's putting in the utilities and why the shift from standard utilities to these utilities.
Well, the shift comes in multiple dimensions. First dimension has to do with the scarcity of water in this area and how long it actually take us to build, reliant on Texas Water Company, etc. You're very familiar with what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to remove that risk, and more importantly, honestly, to get to a point where we can show that rainwater harvesting works in this area. And we believe it does. And there are examples here in your backyard of people having it. As we look, with aerials, some people in this community having it. And those examples work. It's the same drought we all saw. These people have seen, right? So then we got into discussions with different conservation. And honestly, it came about because we're interested in the property down on 1604 and 281. And that property is very, so we have interest in that property. And that property is very environmentally sensitive. And we are working with many of these organizations. It's by Mud Creek Park, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
So our property is adjacent to it, and we're working with the city, parks, and with San Antonio Authority, and with the Edwards Aquifer Authority, where we would partner with them on creating an environmentally sensitive.
I get all that.
That's how it came about.
Okay, and I get all that. I'm simply asking. So basically you're saying Texas Water Company either doesn't have the taps for you or they're too expensive.
Both.
Yes. Okay, so that's why you're cutting them off. Why no electric?
We can put electric. My thinking is go off the grid. Why can we not create a community that is fully off grid?
Because there's a significant cost to going off the grid.
Correct.
That I'm not sure most people would be able to stomach. That's why I'm asking the questions, because what ultimately happens here, right, is you're either giving a finished lot for $100,000 or you're giving with no utilities, or you're giving a finished lot for $200,000 with utilities. Right. And I'm trying to determine what the customer is going to be presented with, because ultimately it's our job to protect these new people coming in as well. Okay. And like from what happens in mud districts, what happens in these types of districts. And so I'm just trying to be very clear, because whereas we have standards for water and we have standards for electricity, we have no standards for solar and we have no standards for rainwater harvesting. And I get it that there might be some 5-acre lots that do that. I have many friends who have rainwater harvesting systems. I have many friends who had to order water because their rainwater harvesting systems have run out of water, right? And so I don't have a standard. You could say, I'm going to put an 8,000-gallon tank back. I'm not saying you're going to. Just saying we could undersize the tank and now you got a whole neighborhood of people that's without water. But we don't have a standard on what's required to be put in there. And there's no standard listed here, and so I'm apprehensive about that part of it because of that reason, right? I'm apprehensive about the solar part because, I don't know, maybe my kids leave the lights on all the time, right? Like there's all these different things that give me some apprehension. So the electric's a big one for me, where I don't really, I get the water aspect of it, I can kind of see where you're going there. The electric makes no sense other than a cost perspective for me of I'm not running water, and so I'm not laying water pipe. And so therefore going out and trenching just for electric probably is a little rough to do on the cost side. That's what I'm assuming. I'm not accusing you of anything there. I'm just trying to understand where we're coming up with this. Like why the shift to this away from a more traditional one? I don't hear anybody in the past or even in the present say, hey, I don't like the fact that they're going to be using electricity from, the power. Water, that's probably a little bit different thing, and I can hear you there. But the only utility I have is electric at my property. Everything else is my own, and I understand that. And so, again, I'm just trying to look out for kind of the future people that come here, the standard that we set, and making sure that things aren't being kind of undersized, and we don't really have that. And for me I'm not opposed to what you're proposing on the whole, on the rainwater harvesting side of things. I just don't think there's enough standards here to kind of hold to it, and I need some more data from you or from some professionals that tell me that, like, hey, every one of these homes need to have a 30,000 gallon rainwater harvesting tank. But you say you've done all these studies. There's nothing in here saying every home will have at least this much based on this study. That's something I'd like to see before I would move forward on something like that. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
Like how I feel a little apprehensive there. So again, not necessarily oppose the idea, but we gotta have something that kind of proves, because Danny, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing in our code that says your rainwater harvesting tank has to be this big to do any of that.
The only way to authorize it would be through a PDD right now.
Right. So again, so that's a bit of a concern of mine, and that's why I kind of bring up where I'm going there, because again, how big of a battery do you need? How big of a water tank do you need? I don't know those things, and I feel like
system.
I feel like that should be part of this if we're going to move forward with it, because that's putting people at risk, in my opinion, and that's a risk that, to your point, needs to be mitigated before we move forward on such a thing. So,
so I can answer. We know how big the tanks are.
Okay, so I'm glad you know.
Yes.
I need to know.
Yeah. So we're looking at anywhere between 25,000 to 30,000 gallons.
I figure that's probably what. Again,
we're looking at redundant, meaning you'll have two tanks. We're looking at precast, concrete precast that is treated on the inside, because that will have it'll be a good insulation from a whole bunch of factors, including heat, etc. Being underground is also going to.
So these will be buried.
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to bury the rainwater harvesting tanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. They're going to be buried.
So
under the building pad?
So that's my next question.
That's the other reason why we get 20 foot.
That was my next question. So are you burying it in the areas where you're asking for exemption from the cut fill requirements? Because rainwater harvesting tank would definitely require a cut fill exemption.
Yes.
Okay.
See, I didn't realize that. You realize it?
It's where I was going with my question. Because he's also going to run into an impervious cover problem on these job sites, which was what I was going to ask. Right, you only allowed it for what the city code has, right? So they can have 8,100 square feet of impervious cover on the entire lot, where you have to do a tier 2 engineered drainage study and the whole fun thing in mitigation. So is that another factor in why you're kind of limiting people on what they can do, so to speak? Okay, makes sense. Just want to make sure that's out in the open and whatnot. So what is your target house size? Just curious for this, since you're kind of doing this. What's the target house size?
What's the target?
Square footage house size.
So we are looking at 2650 approximately of roof catchment. 26. So basically, 2,650
of roof square footage.
Yes.
So your house is going to be 2,000 square feet, roughly.
Yes.
So you're building $1 million homes at 2,000 square feet. Yeah, or a 2-story. You can do 2-story. Sorry. Yeah. Yep. Okay. I thought you said you didn't want to go up. You wanted to stay
Well,
flat.
we are, okay.
That's why I'm asking the question, just because.
Okay, I don't understand why, I don't understand why we have, we're going down to a level, we need to work on mathematics, right? So we believe, yes, we can build, ideally, I don't want to build $1 million home, I want to build an $850,000, right? And it could be a beautiful home. I live in a 1,700 square foot home, right? Because that's a choice I make. I'm a minimalist, and at the end of the day, I believe a lot of people who will be attracted to an environmentally friendly area would also be wanting to live in a smaller homes. And if we are able to build smaller homes, we are able to control price, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah,
it's an integrated approach. I don't want to be building 4,000 square foot homes. I prefer to build 2,000 square foot home on one level, right? And sell that for $850,000.
Okay.
Gorgeous view with
Sure.
lights that are dim. We're not making any. I do not envision going to two-stories. Honestly, I much prefer to be doing smaller homes altogether.
Okay. So kind of last question, just so I can understand what I'm getting. So I walk into your subdivision. What am I buying? Am I buying the finished home? Am I buying a lot that a builder, you're going to say, hey, one of these 5 builders can build it? Like, what am I buying? Like, am I buying a finished home? I'm buying a finished home. So you're going to sell 20 lots to ABCD builder, or you said yourself you might do it. You're going to finish those 20 homes, and I'm going to be able to walk in and go, wow, my house is already done. It's already done the way that you guys did it, and I'm going to walk in and buy it.
No, what will happen is you come in and you say, this is the model I want on this lot, and these are finishings that I want. This is the color I want. Wall.
So I'm picking my lot.
You're picking the lot.
You're picking my model. And I'm
picking a model, and you're picking what's.
So when you make the building pad,
yes,
the building pad could be substantially bigger than the actual foundation, because you're only going to go do this, like you said, one, right? Yes. So how big are the building pads?
Well, you need.
Because you're asking me for carte blanche outside of the building pad, but if the building pad has to accommodate every model of home, this is what I'm worried about.
Well, the building pad, I'll tell you, there's going to be obviously some homes are a bit bigger, some homes are a bit smaller, but we're sticking with an average of
just
about
how big is the building pad?
I don't think we know that number yet, Brad.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just, so again, you can see how.
We're not at construction planning yet.
I completely understand that, but my point overall is, it's very, whereas I get that it's difficult for you to go to the bank and ask for them when you are unsure about what we might do, if you were to come back and ask later. I am also unsure, when you say building pad, I don't know what that means. I don't know what the size of that is. I don't know where that is on the lot. I don't know any of that. When you say my driveway, you can put the building pad on the very back of the lot. And you can put the driveway through the whole piece of property. And so you got to see from our perspective how that gives us a little bit of pause going. We're defining things in some very, very broad terms here. And that's, again, why I'd rather have some of these come back at the time when you need them. And again, I can't say trust us because that's like not a thing, but like both ways.
Because
and so
people change, people
100%. And so, but my point is, that's overall, that's what there's a bit of angst here, right? It's because again, you need some reassurances. You can go do the things you need to do. Again, I think we've been pretty reasonable as a city when it comes to those sorts of things. But variances, they need to be specific. They need to be specific. They need to be specific to the need, specific to the reason as to why. And that's really what I'm struggling with a lot of these they're just not specific enough to do that.
But I believe we are specific, because what we're asking for is a specific area of disturbance that goes.
You're being specific about the area.
That goes out only so far.
But what I'm asking for is you need to be specific, like here on the plan, I need 23 feet. Here on the plan, I need 20 feet. Here on the plan, I've got this. And look, everybody in Bulverde, correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, has to pay tree mitigation for their driveways. Because driveways are not a value.
Construction, yeah.
driveways are not vested rights.
Yeah, and that is
So-
why I'm saying that we're happy to mitigate. That's probably
You're-
back
you're-
back to your-
You're not, you're asking for exemption from mitigation in the building footprint extended and including the driveway.
Correct. Okay, so then we put, maybe that's where.
There's a point I also want to clarify about that, because the way this is written, it says that the building footprint includes the driveway and 20 feet around the building footprint, which means that the driveways could be 52 to 60 feet. The area of disturbance associated with the driveway, the way this is written, could be 60 feet wide. Was that your intention?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't think it was your intention, but I'm just saying this is overly broad in the context because we're taking the code, we're redefining terms and then asking for broad context around those terms. And that makes it difficult for, I have to think of this. I love Bailey and Keith and Danny too, sometimes. They have to go enforce this somehow. Like, we have to be able to go out there and enforce this. And again, the other way that this is written is, hey, if the plan dictates, differs from what they say, the plan drives. And so that's another reason that I'm concerned with the context is overly broad. The context, and I get it, we haven't done the engineering yet, things like that. But that's why these particular processes are done later. These variances are usually not asked for this far up front. And that's where I'm having a lot of difficulty getting one through all of them because there are a lot of them, right? Some of them are ones we've maybe seen before, but, you know, and so that's just where I'm at, right? It's a very difficult thing to get through some of this, simply because I understand what you're trying to do, but at the same time, you have to understand where we're coming from. These things are overly broad. So I don't know if that's something you want to take when you take the city council of these sorts of things is you need to really try to reduce them down, you know, in a way and define them a bit better, because that's really where I've got a lot of kind of consternation here with this. I think for the rest of the application, I think most of my other commissioners have asked most of those. I think I've got a lot of the similar concerns as those. And so that's what I got.
So is your concern, as we look at defining the area, the areas of disturbance, and we're saying 50 feet and the pads.
Sure.
So is that not enough for you to know that we're not gonna go all the way inside the lot? Like, I'm just trying to understand how we could have done that.
So I will tell you, this is my personal interpretation of the code.
Yeah, sure.
I want to put my driveway here, but now I'm gonna have to pay $20,000 to remove these trees. I will move my driveway to not pay that $20,000. If I want to pay it, I'll pay it, and I'll knock the tree down, right? You're removing that incentive, and again, I'm not saying one way or the other that you do or don't want to move trees, and no, you don't want to remove trees, right? But at the same time, it removes that from this. It removes, the code has things that direct certain behaviors, and you're removing those. You're removing all of the bad stuff and letting yourself do the good stuff. And I'm not saying you're going to do all the bad stuff. I'm just simply saying that gives us consternation because again, this carries with the property. So you all of a sudden go, guys, couldn't make it work, right? Whatever, and it goes to the next person, and they come in and define the building pad as 3/4 of the property, all the way on the back of the property, and they can clear cut the lots. That's where I have some fear, and I've got to protect the city a little bit there and the residents, saying, hey, we cannot just give overly broad context here because again, this is not just you. This could be for the future, could be whatever, right? And so that's really where I'm.
Well, we can make it easy. So why don't we put a definition on a max for a pad? So basically, we would say pad not to exceed, say like 3,000 or 3,200 square feet.
It's in your application actually
Is it?
already.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it
right
is.
here. Right.
Okay, I must
Page
have missed it.
111, right here.
So average pad size, right? So average pad size. It doesn't define how.
But
big
we
the
can
pad-
say a max. No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. We're not being coy about this. If you believe we should put a 3,200 as a max, we'll do that. If you believe that we should put the max driveway, I don't know, 30 feet, 40 feet, something like this, we will do that. So why don't we just say that?
I'm just more in favor of like on the driveway, like you gotta pay tree mitigation for the driveway, and then it makes you put the driveway in a spot
And we're good with that.
where you don't kill trees.
We're good with that.
Okay, so now we've already moved like 3 things in here. So that's kind of again back to the kind of problem of there's a lot of stuff in here to get through. If you're willing to compromise on some of it, just bring us what you need to do it, and then we can look at that. It's just, this is a lot to get through. This is, especially since now there's, R5 zoning and C2 zoning. It's just a lot. And so I don't know that we.
Why don't we do this? The lot has to do with size of the pad, the driveway length, right? And in terms of mitigation, tree mitigation on the driveway, right? Why don't we just agree that these will be the conditions for approval? What else is there in there that does not give you, that gives you unease?
A lot. A lot. I'm just focused on one thing, trying to illustrate to you how this one particular thing, there's a lot of spider that comes off of this that's very difficult to kind of regulate against against deviations from it, because you're asking for a very wide berth. I need to narrow the berth down in order to make sure that I'm holding you to some standard. So again, I'm not opposed to variances to some of this, because I do ultimately like getting this all into an R2. I think that's definitely, as you heard, I think that's what most people would want, right? They wouldn't want the R3, but and I asked you, I think this might have been asked already, or maybe it wasn't. How many lots, if you go to R2, and maybe you haven't, maybe you've done this, maybe you haven't. If you haven't, I would think about maybe doing it. How many lots can you fit on the property and not deviate from the code?
We attempted to do that, and honestly, we were not probably going to go over 120.
Okay, so you're about half of what you have on here to meet code and not do that. Okay, all right, that's good for me to know.
Yeah, and again, honestly, I'll tell you something. Where we're at, you guys approved it last time with less, or recommended approval with honestly less definitions.
It was approved with conditions.
Yeah, fair enough. And our hope, honestly, today is we don't want this matter tabled. We would prefer a decision, right? So, and honestly, if there's anything in particular that you do not, just like you said, a lot of stuff. If we can get guidance on what that is and you put conditions on it, we're totally open to that, right? So we would like a decision with conditions if that is where you'd like to go. We are good with limiting the size of the pad. Say, the size of the pad is say 3,200 max. Good with that. The driveway not to exceed 40 feet, 30 feet, right? That basically addresses the trees, addresses the cut and fill, and addresses the slope disturbance. Right? These three.
I don't think that it addresses the slope disturbance, and I don't think it necessarily the cut and fill either.
Well, cut and fill is allowed, again, cut and fill
in the right of way.
In the right of way.
But not outside the right of way.
Our understanding is, if you were to read the code, the same applies to the pad.
You have vested rights to just your building footprint, not the pad.
The building footprint.
Correct. So you have 5 feet around the building, or 10 feet.
It's 10 feet.
10 feet
for the foundation.
From the foundation. Yeah. Correct. So you have 10 feet around the foundation, not the building, and that's where I see the inching going. Is we change building footprint to building pad, and then we go 20 feet outside. Right, like you can see how it's just this progressive kind of inching it up.
Sorry, honestly, this was not meant to be.
No, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because I didn't know that you meant it that way.
Why don't we just say it's the building footprint, to be more exact?
So 10 feet outside the building footprint.
We would like 20 feet, which currently you have 10 feet in the code. Let's give us a bit more room for backyard.
But you can still do a backyard. This doesn't mean you can't do a backyard.
Well, I can't if I'm cutting in the back. If you have a lot, right? I need to cut in the back.
Why do you need to cut in the back? I'm confused now. Because
you have the AC, you have the AC. Yeah, so this is.
So you want to.
This is the.
There's plenty of slats I've seen with 20-foot elevation, 20-foot, foundation.
Yeah. So this is your.
No, I totally get that. I'm just saying. So you want to cut the whole lot down to get the house lower, so the backyard's flat going out the back.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brooke.
You're fine. It's really just applying to the cases where you don't have exposed slabs and where the pad is sitting lower based off of the ground,
Right.
topography, so,
Because cut and fill does not apply to your slab. You can make your slab 30 feet tall.
right, I think he's
By
just
code.
looking for a little bit extra outside of that, so that when you're walking out, if your slab is 30 feet high, then, hopefully we're never getting to that.
Hopefully not. So again, I guess this is again where I'm like thinking through the whole process here, right? You're predefining where, right? It may make sense to put the house on the back of the property where it flattens out, but it sounds like that's not the case. You want to put it up close to the road, and so you're asking us to allow you to cut and fill anywhere in there from the house to the road to get the backyard to be where you get the.
Up to 30 feet.
We're trying to preserve back the lots,
Yeah.
we leave those natural.
And leave those natural.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, maybe the definition, I don't know, it's weird, but maybe the definition is you leave so much in the backyard untouched. Well, I would think they would probably want more than that, like you don't touch, I don't know what the number is, but.
Yeah, I mean, if you add, we're good with like 30 plus, so we can, I can guarantee you, we can probably do, no more than say, I would say like 95 to 100 feet. Let's say
From what?
from the ROW.
So from the road,
From the edge of the road back.
from the road, edge of the road back to the house,
Yeah.
you're gonna be within 100 feet of that. Okay.
So the front yard's gonna be roughly 50 feet, 60 feet.
Well, are you saying the front of the house and 100 feet of the rear of the house?
Forgive me for interjecting, it's getting late in the evening.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if what you're suggesting is that we write a slew of changes to your proposed PDD and then present that with an approval on, I don't think any of us are in a position to take the amount of copious notes that's gonna take to get this done today.
Well, okay, here's our issue.
I know
we
you
are-
don't like seeing us anymore, we like seeing.
Well,
it.
the thing is, I mean, we can come back next time. If we don't have guidance on what is it that we're dealing with, number one, and if we do have guidance, why don't we, I believe it's not nearly as bad as it's sounding, honestly. So we're okay on the ROW being 40 plus 10 and 10. We're okay on the, basically the center lines.
So you're gonna easement the 10 and 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what we're proposing. That's already proposed, right? We're good for the radius. That's IFC requirement. We're good with that. We are basically the ratio that we're looking at, that lot aspect ratio, is to accommodate those lots that are in borders.
And we talked about that last time, we went along with that.
Yeah. So if you go down that list, please, let's do that.
So I'll just tell you, Ray, I think there's a lot here. I think you've heard a lot of comments, right? We're happy to not table and recommend what we're gonna recommend. City council has the final say. You can bring those changes before city council and amend this to try and get that done would be my.
I think that's the way we would like it, honestly, because look,
Because if you don't want to be held up, we won't hold you up.
Yeah, we don't want.
Okay.
But it's either one way or another. I mean, we've been through this, and
No.
we're under contract. Honestly, if you guys tell us just go, we will.
So I think you've gotten a lot of feedback through questions. So, okay. Cool.
So really quickly, since our questions are over, and we have been at this for over 2 hours, currently I would like to take a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
If that's okay. We'll do an internal discussion and then we will open it up to public comment after that.
Sounds good. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I saw that. Okay, I was like, I got no
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. If he wants to write this down, he can do this. He wants to take 300 days. So you walked in late, so let me fill you in. Yeah, so when the preload, what you need to fix. She was telling us, you need to create care because there's good lights. And Michelle, down. What are they going to do? Oh, I never looked at it. I don't need to go practice. I like it. Oh, thank you.
Sandra does. She's like smart. Not her way. Chocolate. I don't like this game. The chair formally requests a Smartie.
It wasn't the people next
Okay. Everyone is back.
Oh, it's like the sugar. I mean, I like
All right,
that.
we'll start back at 8:22. Thank you, everybody. Okay.
Chair, would you mind if I made a request?
Yes.
You would mind?
Oh, sorry.
So we were prepared for the presentation. Really not for the comments. Your comments were very insightful. You know, our application in requesting these variances at this time, the reason for that is because we did a lot of studies in preparation. So most people would ask for these variances at the planning stages, but we've already done the drainage studies. We've already done the studies, and that's why we know what we need. But what we asked for was too broad after everything that you have said. And so we would like to request a continuance to your next meeting so we can amend our application to be more surgical in our request. Thank you
very much.
All right.
All right, do we want any internal conversation before it goes to public comment? Does anyone do a pulse check? How are people feeling?
I just make the comment that there's some things that we hadn't even talked about. We started getting into the center line of the streets and the R2, reverse minimum tangents and different things like that. We didn't discuss those things. I think that came up last time. I know I shouldn't talk too much about last time, but those are some things that I have concern about the way it's discussed. Besides the grading, the trees and different things like that, they're more than just those big issues. There's small stuff here too.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we haven't touched a lot of the same things for the R2 would apply to some of the C2 and the R5 stuff as well. That I would want amended, for sure.
And what are your thoughts on the request for tabling?
My question is this: can we do a workshop or something where we can sit down with them? That would not be permissible to do that.
The state law governs zoning changes, and it's very specific about having public hearings and actions.
Okay, so it has to be public hearings. So we just can't
sit
down there and go through specific articles step by step like that. Because we're talking about, they may need another. Yeah.
My feeling is there's so many variances that are requested that it's hard for me to have it. I mean, we give variances for certain smaller things or that have very strict parameters on it, and this I cannot.
Is there anyone that would entertain a motion at this time? So we can create a motion in a second, but not vote before public comment. Would anybody be interested in doing that?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion based on the applicant's request that we table the request by Turner Development LP and One South Group LP on behalf of Dash Interest LLC and Ocker Ali for the establishment of a planned development district for single-family, multi-family, and commercial uses on approximately 387 acres at 31575 Highway 281 North, Bull Verde, Texas 78163.
There's a motion.
I'll second it.
And we have a second. So we are not voting at this time, but we will start our public comment at 8:26. Dr. Stephen Granger.
First, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight about rainbees and why we're here and what it means to the community. And I'll start by saying that in 2019, in January, I had just stepped down as president of the Master Gardening Association here in Comal County. And we, working with the current, at that time, extension agent, we formed a water conservation project, which was to draw people from many aspects of the community. This wasn't just a master gardening program. It was also for government. It was for builders. It was for bankers. real estate agents and the public. And in doing so, we got caught up by the COVID problem, and we went quiet for a little while, and then we emerged on the other side. Turns out that only my partner, Dr. Larry Son, and I were carrying the banner for a while. We've since added people to that. But we have met with thousands of people over the last 7 years. And one of the things that the primary mission of our organization is to communicate what the water situation is and how to mitigate it. So we're using all of the resources of AgriLife from Texas A&M. And these are all best management practices for a number of things, xeriscaping, rainwater harvesting, efficient irrigation, and so on and so on. And what we really look toward is finding participants to join us in this effort. We have been able to get 3 banks to start rolling rainwater harvesting into a mortgage, just like a well. And we want to emphasize that we're trying to change the paradigm of thinking in the county, that a well is not a safe haven, and that we're going to move from that to rain harvesting. We must do that. And if you look at what's happening in the western states, you'll see that this is not a new phenomenon for this area alone. It's happening everywhere. And a lot of agencies are having to change the rules in order to accommodate the loss of water, particularly in the aquifers. Our Trinity is under stress, and we want to set the stage for the coming generations because things are going to change dramatically. And when I pulled off 281 coming up Bulverde Road, I saw this banner over the road that said, "Speak for a child." And I thought, well, that's exactly what I'm doing tonight. So with that, I'll pass the baton to my partner, Larry Son.
Thank you. All right, next is Lyndon Sisk.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Lyndon Sisk. I live at 2255 Firethorn Path in Spring Branch. I'm an electrical engineer. I advise a policy foundation on issues in the ERCOT grid from solar, wind, and battery systems like those that shut down the national grids of Spain and Portugal completely last April. And I live in a house with a rainwater collection system that Larry Son designed. The proposal before you is to create an off-grid subdivision. The numbers I'm giving you are based on the size of the houses in the Terracina subdivision thoughtfully provided as a reference by the applicant. Those houses average about 3,000 square feet and are currently valued at about $1.5 million. That house will need 80 kilowatt hours of electricity per day. To produce that amount of power would require a solar panel array of 20 kilowatts. The installed cost of conventional solar panels is about $55,000. However, most of the houses in that subdivision use solar shingles. Only 3 use conventional panels, probably because the roofs are oriented in the wrong direction for solar. The cost of solar shingles is approximately twice that, or much more from ones from Tesla, and they're heavy, increasing the roof cost. Installed on the ground, conventional panels would require cleared south-facing ground space of about 3,000 square feet. To back that up would require a battery capacity of about 220 kilowatt hours at a cost of at least $220,000, plus an energy management system at an additional cost of about $12,000 and a generator at a minimum cost of about $15,000. So we're looking at $300,000 or a much higher figure using solar shingles. The houses in that subdivision all have storage tanks in the 30,000 gallon range like the one on my house. Those total cost of those, including installation, tends to be about $45,000. Average annual rainfall in this area is around 32 inches over the last 87 years, which on a 3,000 square foot roof will produce 145 gallons of water per day average. The rainfall standard deviation is 11 inches, which means that in 17% of those years, rainfall will deliver less than 95 gallons per day. And on a 2,000 square foot house referred to by Mr. Chahed, that will only be 96 gallons or 63 gallons. So the total cost of the electrical infrastructure is at least $345,000. My objection to approving this application is not based, I'll be one sentence, whether I think 234 people can be found to pay at least $1 million per house. That's his problem. My problem is the amount of variances. The development standards of this city are there for a good reason, and variances for them should not be granted without really good reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Six. Mandy Tucker.
Well, that is a hard one to follow. And I'm not even the one that's normally here to speak. This is really on behalf of my husband and myself, and he is the speaker in the House. So I am just here, though, basically, I think you all covered wonderfully. And I really thank you for the efforts that you have put into this and the thoughtfulness that you have put into this to understand what is being asked of Bulverde. I'm asking you to oppose it for those reasons, but also one thing I don't think, and I did have to step out because my son was needing a ride home, but I don't know that this was addressed, but the fact that there was also this request for one-way grandfathering, which would provide protection from stricter future rules while reserving the right to use any looser rules that the city might adopt later. So that is also a big concern, and that, again, is just this broad context that we keep hearing. So thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Koski.
Hi, I'm Melissa Koski. I live at 31563 Bulverde Hills Drive. We live across the street, so our neighbors across the street, their houses back up to the ranch. I'll tell you, you guys, everybody's brought up so many good points tonight, and so much has been covered, so I'm kind of all over the place, but two things that are really standing out. Number one, fire. There's no real codes. You know, it's let's grandfather it, or I'm sorry, you know, the city doesn't have a rule, Comal County doesn't have a rule, but we've got to look at Texas's rule for the state's requirement, but there really isn't anything. You've got water that needs to be stored for usage, but you've got water that needs to be stored for a fire. And you're not only considering the ranch, what about us neighbors? What if the wildfire starts in there? There's no fire hydrants. I don't know. We've got a fire hydrant 5 or 6 houses down the street. I know we've got something there, but if it's coming from the ranch and it's going from house to house to house, and again, you've got the heat from these battery packs and solar panels. I mean, there's a lot to think of, but I think in general too, you know, we moved out here, and when you drive out 281 now, what do you see at Borgfeld? We can't control what happened in Bexar County, what the city of San Antonio annexed. But now, when we come out 281, we see those ugly apartments. They took all the trees out except a little corner. So now you've got that, and then you look forward into Bulverde. You still see hills, you still see trees. But really, what is the left side of the street going to look like in a few years? A bunch of tanks? We don't know that these can really go in the ground. A bunch of tanks? How many tanks? Commercial property is along 281. Apartments are along 281. The houses are in the back. And then you think, okay, well, maybe that's not going to be so bad if the houses are still back there and we can keep the trees. But that's not what we're hearing right now. We're hearing solar panels, tanks, clear this, have this drainage. And then I don't even understand what this, what is it, the wastewater treatment. What is that? I don't understand what that means. If I go online and I try to figure it out, it's like reclaimed water. Is that going to smell up our neighborhood? Is that going to be, you know, water goes in, and if it rains, it's gonna stink. I mean, there's so many things that we don't know, but fire, and let's preserve the hill country. I just beg you guys, keep the codes, keep the plan, stick with what is right, and protect our city and protect our residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
There was one that was marked out, but I just want to double check to see if they are wanting to speak. Kevin and Susanna Rodriguez. Okay, no worries.
Speak for yourself.
Sorry, Greg. Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate the time and opportunity to speak again today. It was 100% an accident. I did not intend. I thought that was a sign-in form. However, I've spent 20 plus years in the Marine Corps outside. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old. And as a future member of Bulverde, I kind of hear some of the proposals by the gentleman. I feel like it's a dichotomy. As a future resident, I kind of look at it as a double-edged sword. I'm coming from California is essentially to escape California. A lot of what's happening in California. To be frank, again, it is a dichotomy. In one sense, I see them leveraging a lot of the sustainable design in the instances of the reusable energy, the reusable water, and I think it's great. I think we're paying like $20, $30 for an electrical bill, but I know that comes at a cost. On one hand, we did have solar panels in the house. On the second hand, I could fart and my neighbor could smell it. But it was I think this is again, we decided to come back from California to escape a lot of what's going on there. It feels like a lot of the infrastructure is kind of closing in on itself. But on the same note, there is a lot of the instances where the sustainable design, I feel like we should be leveraging some of those concepts. I don't know what the right answer is, and I pray for all of you on the board to kind of consider all those matters. But again, it was an accident to speak here, but I kind of feel the energy in the room, and I felt like it needed to be said. Like this, I'm seeing it from a different perspective. Like I am ready to come home, and I set to retire in another year. But I'm ready and excited to come back to Texas. But on the other hand, I don't want it to move out of California to move back to California. That kind of makes sense. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Weller.
Hello, everybody. I don't have too much to say, just, I went there last year with y'all and I was here, I don't know, whatever, 3-5 times, right? Yeah, y'all approved him last year, he went to city council and then he got denied or whatever, so we saw that. My thing is, we just got R2 and R3, it was already, y'all, gave that, designed that to be there, and he's doing the best he can with it. I don't want to see a bunch of tract homes. I'm sorry if you live across the street. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see what's down 1863. I'm sorry, I'm just going to use KB homes. I don't know what to call them, but I don't want to see that either. But you may not like it, but I'm for the development. My house borders the ranch, so I would be looking into that property every evening. So I look east, and my property does border the ranch. I have a lot of concerns. They're not going to be answered here. He's got a lot of homework to do. Things changed totally when I started reading through all of it, and I don't know all of the codes. Like him, he's an electrical engineer. I am a master electrician, so I know a little bit about some things. But the variances, everybody comes in here for variances. I see it all. I look weekly and see all the variances and things. I get it. He's asking for them up front. He's kind of like he's taking the house and unbuilding it. He's going backwards a little bit with it. I would come in with a different approach, but I'm not doing what he does. So y'all have a bunch of good ideas, smart board. So I'm sure we'll get through it and make the right decision. I just don't like the R3s. So that's my main thing. I want to see R2. I like the development. Maybe he needs to take it and, like you said, don't make a bunch of variances, take the property and build to that, what you have right there. You know, he may have to lose a few lots here and there, but that's what I would suggest. I mean, he's right there with it. I mean, you know, so, and then with the rainwater, you know, I mean, I started looking at it too. I mean, all the infrastructure. I mean, CPS is, you know, they bought a plant. They're going to be coming in with 765 from down in Corpus Christi. They bought the Barney Davidson plant. I don't know if y'all know that, but you know, they have South Texas Nuclear Power Plant. You know, so there's a lot of things. I mean, he changed some things. I'm not really keen on a lot of those things. The water. You know, I mean, where are you going to get all this water and no power? I mean, I'm not really with that. I would use CPS, but anyway, I just don't want that R3 to end up, you know, where it's at. So.
Thank you. Dr. Larry Sun?
Before I get started, you have made some comments and about square footage of homes and rain harvesting. That's what we do, that we do those calculations. And a 2,600 square foot home, when you consider that is only the indoor portion, please don't start the clock yet. I'm just trying to clarify what your
This is part of your public comment, sir.
We Rain Bees have been in consulting now for about 7 years. And when we started, we wanted to make sure that the bankers, the builders, and the beneficiaries were aware of rain harvesting in terms of how much water they would be able to collect and whether we would be able to have them basically be self-sustaining. We were informed about the McCarty Ranch from Marissa Bruno over at the Hill Country Alliance, and because of that, she felt that this was kind of in our bailiwick. So having served for 8 years on the Comal Trinity Groundwater Conservation District Board of Directors and also as being a consultant for the past 7 years in rain harvesting, there's a couple of things that I think you all may want to know and consider concerning rain harvesting. We are the public outreach program for the Comal Trinity Groundwater Conservation District. And I can, the data from them is that our water table has dropped 4.5 feet in just 1 year. 4.5 feet. That means that we're losing over a foot every 3 months in the water table. And what that means is if you drill a well today, that well is going to go dry in less than 20 years if that continues to fall. The rate of decline is phenomenal. My calculations indicate that 17 million gallons would be collected by the various homes on that property, 240 homes. Of the 17 million gallons, 12 million gallons would be actually used by the people who live there if each house has 3 people in it. That means 5 million gallons are left over. The amount of water that they collect, if you were to put it on the football field over at Smithson Valley High School, that amount of water would be 53 feet high. People on one side wouldn't be able to see people on the other side. So bottom line, we as rain consultants for the rainwater are very much in favor of them collecting the water, reusing the water, and slowly putting it back into the system. Calculations that we make indicate that there truly is less water going to run off that property after it's built out than is happening today because they're collecting 17 million gallons, 53 acre feet of water. Thanks.
Thank you. We're closing public comment at 8:47. Danny, quick procedural, since there is a motion and a second on the table, do we have to vote at this time, or are we able to discuss?
You can discuss, but I need to make a few points. The deadline for items for the August P&Z agenda is this Friday. So if the applicant wants to be on that agenda, they've got to have a completely overhauled application to us on Friday. And that's when we need to send the newspaper notice, right? Yeah. So we they have a short time period if they want to go to the next, if they want to make substantial changes to this, they have a short time to make those changes. Because we still have to perform a review, we still have to make a completeness determination under the ordinance. There's got to be time for us to look at it, send it back to them, and do all of our other work. So as long as everybody's aware of that, we may not be at the August meeting if they can't get that done in that time.
Okay. And their request of, I'll say the motion in the second that's currently on the table of tabling.
Yes.
They would be coming back at the next planning and zoning meeting in August.
If they can meet the deadline.
Or you're saying, sorry, so you're saying the deadline for next planning and zoning is Friday, not city council is on Friday.
Right. No,
Okay, sorry, I misread
no,
you.
yeah. No, council's assuming there's no significant
He's just saying,
changes.
yeah, if they want to be on the agenda for next month, they have till Friday. If not, it'll likely be.
And we understand.
Of subsequent meetings.
All right.
Second question, really quick as well. If, let's just say hypothetical, if it is denied, recommended denial this evening, that moves on to city council in 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know exactly what it is.
28th is the next council meeting.
Uh,
But if there's substantial amendments to the application,
Okay,
it could
are
go
they
back
allowed
to.
to amend in between that time?
They're
Or they
allowed
have
to take
do
things out. They're not allowed to add things. So that's going to be a real, I couldn't give you any idea of, like they're asking for a 20-foot setback now. If they came back and asked for a 15-foot setback, that could probably still go. But if they pushed it out further, then it wouldn't. It'd have to come back to you to go again. So hopefully that clarifies things.
Can I ask another question? In hypothetical, if it's recommended denial, and let's say they can't amend enough for city council to ultimately deny as well, then is that another 6 months and a new application fee?
So PDDs don't have a limitation on how often you can bring them, unless I'm completely forgetting the code. They have their own special procedural paradigm. But if it's denied, they can apply again, but the process starts over and the fees apply again, if council denies.
Right.
Okay. So we are allowed internal discussion before voting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say?
If we table it, there's other issues we need to discuss that they're gonna go work on. I mean, what are they gonna come back to us with some of the same issues?
I mean, what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're gonna sharpen their pencil and look at what needs and wants and come back with needs. That was what I interpreted as.
And I would say that's what
But-
we're asking as
in
well.
Yeah, instead of let's shoot for the stars and maybe hit the moon. Maybe a different approach is called for here. But I can't speak for the applicant. That's just what I'm expecting based on what I heard.
Any other thoughts or discussion? Is there?
I want to thank the two gentlemen from the Rainwater Arts, Rainwater program, because they were very enlightening. I think all of us had questions about, gee, was there going to be enough water in our system from rain to even provide for the subdivision, and they were able to be spot on. So that's one thing I want to mention.
And the fact that there's no flooding on under 281 to the neighborhoods across.
I don't know that I agree with that. I respect y'all for sure, but 53 acre feet is on a 300 acre parcel is like a BB gun and a freight train. There's a lot of water that runs off that site, much more than that. So, right, they got to keep with the code, which is the normal detention process, right, and all that good stuff. So it'll help. It's going to go to use, which is good. I like that. But 53 acre feet's barely. Doesn't sound like it's small, but trust me, it's a small amount of water.
Let me ask this question that city council asked the last time. which I thought was pretty enlightening. Let's say they do come back with more clarified information. Do you believe at this moment in time that clarified information would be enough for you to recommend approval? Or is there anything in you that would say otherwise?
So much. It's just a large volume. I mean, they're gonna have to be really sharp with their pencils to do it, because, I mean, one thing that I objected to, one thing I heard other people object to, is just the overwhelming number of variances requested. And so, when you start limiting them, then we're gonna have to go through them one by one. To be exact, because we're gonna have to review them and get it all right. Council. It can be done. It can be done. I mean, they're obviously what we're doing. So we just gotta be on our ball too.
What does everyone else feel like?
Can't speak to what they would bring or wouldn't bring. I would just say that I think that when you look at the exceptions and the broadness of them, right, there's normally a time and place to bring certain things, and they're done that way for a reason. I think of steep slopes and cut fills and all that, and so that's why I had questions around the methodology of how they were going to sell them, because most of the time, right, the developer would come in, develop a lot, and say, hey, now the lot's your problem. Yeah. And somebody who's owning that home would walk out and go, wow, this is a really steep lot. I'm like, this is going to cost me a lot of money. Do I want to do this or not? And then they would come request us at that time. That's why we've dealt with steep slope requests and all that from various, right? Like we had that one requiring buffer in Centennial Ridge, right? Like all those types of things, right? That's how the process is supposed to work, in my opinion. Is you should have individual cases with individual variances for specific.
And each one stands on its own.
Correct. And so
you don't get a broad brush.
So that's where I'm at on it. Again, whether they can get to that point or not, that's up for them. But that's where I kind of stand on it. Is they need to be specific and individual in their need and the reason as to why they need that one. And I think that's what we're charged to do at the end of the day.
I think making the fire truck, the roads more narrow and the cul-de-sac smaller is a real issue for me. Mm-hmm. I love this 5 things, but it's just hard. It's like the wrong lot with the right features.
Mm-hmm. I would really like to see the rainwater harvesting happen with the on-site septic facility approval at these acreage sizes. My experience and discussions have been counter to that, but I'd love to see that happen. So you can see more of that.
Yeah,
development.
I agree. My consternation is probably on the electrical side more than it is on the water side. I think there's a way to overcome the water side of things a little bit.
Yeah. The water side makes more sense. It should logically work.
Yeah.
And the electric side does.
The electric side, there's just too many additional backups, additional things, whatever that would be.
Right, and understand. Yeah. But part of that's their problem.
Sure, for sure.
I mean, they can't sell houses, they can't make any money, so they're gonna have to figure that out.
Yep.
And again, we did not talk at all about really the commercial or multifamily.
I would say that my comments that I make about the R2 situation would apply throughout. Right, like if you have a specific commercial building that you want to build and you need to exceed a steep slope, then you deal with those all the time, and we want to see that. We look at that building and figure out whether or not that steep slope could occur.
Yeah, but we're not talking retail. We're talking
like an office building.
Right.
Right. No. That's what C2 is. It's in that.
Well,
it could be retail. It could be like a strip. It's not going to be.
It's pretty wide zone.
Yeah, but the point is, right? You would evaluate this building and say that you just stare at it. Right. Whatever, right? And we're giving up all of that kind of oversight, we'll say, that I think that we're charged with. So.
Okay. Are you ready to vote?
Sure.
All right. So we have a motion and a second on the table for tabling 2.5. The request by Trimark Developments LP and One Stop Group LP on behalf of Dash Interest LLC and Akber Ali for establishment of a planned development district for a single-family, multifamily, and commercial uses on approximately 387 acres at 31575 Highway 281 North, Bulverde, Texas 78163. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes for tabling. Number 3, public comments not related to posted agenda items. We have no one signed up at this time, so it's opened and closed at 8:58, and we are officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I wanted to help clarify the calculation.
Yeah,
When you figure a 2,600 square foot home, that's the living space.
No, 100%.
Yeah, so when you add the garage, plus